Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the No Laying Up podcast. Soly here. Got a fun deep dive for you. I always enjoy doing these with KVV. Of course, we've did this at Pinehurst. We looked at the last three U.S. Opens that were at Pinehurst. We have also looked at the last three Open Championships that have been at Royal Troon in advance of next week's Open Championship. 2016, I hogged this one. I stole this one completely out from underneath KVV. Henrik Stenson versus Phil. We're going to cover that one first. He got Todd Hamilton in 2004. Listen, I'll let KVV draft first on the next one. We also covered the 97 Open Championship as a part of our 97 Majors pod. I think I explained this when we get into this, but we have included that audio and video also included within this episode as well. You may have already heard that part, but if you haven't, or if you haven't, you don't remember what it was like, you can listen to that. That's on the back half of this one. I want to give a shout out to our friends at Roback. Listen, there's a reason we talk about this stuff so much. There's truly not a day that goes by where I'm not wearing some sort of Roback clothing. Not only are they a tremendous supporter of our content, they have it all. The workout shirt I'm in right now, it's called the Blitz Tech Long Sleeve Tee. They are perfect for summer. I've got 3 that I keep in rotation. I wouldn't hate having even more if somebody from Roback is listening. It makes me want to work out. It makes me want to go be active. Their shorts are the same exact way. They're super comfortable, and I just end up wearing them around the house while I'm working in the summer. All summer long. It's been fantastic. Bathing suit got a lot of use on July 4th. They have everything. There's a brief window last night. A little bit of rain came in. I got a chance to bust out the joggers. Haven't worn long pants in quite some time. It's damn hot here in Florida, but was thrilled to do that. We got some content coming out related to Royal Troon. We shot a video there back in March. I was very thankful that he supported that content. I wore 5 layers of Roback in that one: the polo, the crew neck, the Q-zip, the hoodie, and the vest. So check that out on our YouTube channel as well. We appreciate all their support. I had the joggers on that one too. See, I can't go anywhere without wearing a little piece of Roback. If you haven't already, load up on some Roback for yourself or for others. Code NLU at Roback.com for a generous 20% off your first order through the end of this week. RHOBACK.com. 20% off bottoms, Q-zips, hoodies, and more with code NLU. Summer isn't the same without Roback. Without any further delay, here is our podcast. All right, Kev, we're back for another deep dive. If you have not tuned into some of these before, we usually tackle a single year and look at every single major of that year. We're trying to do something different with these last couple majors of the year, looking back at we just did Pinehurst, the last 3 Pinehurst U.S. Opens, and now we're going to look back at the past 3 Royal Troon Open Championships. We have already covered 1997, the Justin Leonard year, in our deep dive into 1997. We are going to put the audio for that at the very end of this one, but if you've already heard it before, you don't need to tune in for that one. But I'm going to be tackling 2016. KVV is going to be tackling 2004. I peed all over 2016. I laid claim to that one. I was like, all right, please let me do this one. Will you let me do this one? And you went along with it.
Yeah, because I wanted to talk about Todd Hamilton hitting hybrids all over the place. Look, I think it's like when a band, us doing 97 and just reheating it. It's like when a band like puts out their greatest hits album and then throws a few more tracks on it. Like you got to buy it anyway. Sorry.
Yeah. Listen, it's again, if you can skip past it if you want, but we'll play it. Then it's all at least in one spot. If you haven't heard it, then people can listen to that there. But that was just a few months ago we did that one. But what were you doing in 2016? What do you remember about life in 2016? It's only 8 years ago. It's another weird one to cover. Twitter was very much around for this one. This is within our era of covering golf. It's weird to kind of do some of these deep dives that we covered the first time around.
2016 was my first kind of year on the golf beat for ESPN. I guess sort of second year. The first year, 2015, I had been chasing Rory around. I did go to my first Masters in 2016. Also went to the US Open and the PGA, but skipped the Open Championship that year because I had a family reunion in Montana. My family was kind of like, oh, I guess you could go, but if you don't have to, like, it'd be really nice if you'd come. And I was mostly a football writer back then, but I was like, all right, I guess, Mom, I guess I'll come I'll skip Troon. Troon doesn't seem like that cool of a venue. And then my guy Mickelson took it way deep on the first day, I believe. I'm sure you'll touch on that, but I felt like, oh my God, I've missed out on everything cool.
It ended up being an excellent one. I believe I said something to the likes of 2016 was Troon's way of making up for Todd Hamilton in 2004. So hopefully, listen, I'm sure yours is going to be plenty entertaining, but 2016 was zany in a couple ways, but more it was about this just incredible duel. I went and looked back pulled up my old July 2016 photos. I was living in Amsterdam at the time. This is a bunch of us celebrating July 4th in Vondel Park just a couple weeks before the Open Championship kicked off. Next week we were jumping off into some coves in Menorca, Spain. Life changed a lot for me in the last 8 years. It was very weird. It's like looking back at old photos from college today of what my life used to be like when I lived abroad. I went to Nuremberg the week after Open Championship. I was in Greece and Ireland the weeks before those. It was a very, very different time in my life, but I was somehow finding time to watch golf late at night. This was actually not that late at night because it was actually played in close to the same time zone I was in. But
That's right.
we're going to Royal Troon on July 14th through the 17th. The course is going to play 7,190 yards. The purse is $8.5 million. The winner is going to get $1.55 million. A lot has changed in golf since that time. I believe runner-up at the U.S. Open got considerably more than that this past year. But there is a Fab Four in golf as of the Open Championship in 2016. Can you name the Fab Four?
Fab Four. Okay. I think I do know this. I think it's Rory, Jordan Spieth, Jason Day, and Ricky Fowler.
Close. It's Dustin Johnson because he just won the U.S. Open at Oakmont. Yeah.
When was Rick involved? Like, remember when Rick won over in Dubai, and then that's when he was like briefly part of the Big Four? I guess I failed here in remembering that DJ had won the U.S. Open leading up to this, but I swear Ricky was briefly part of the Big Four.
It was a Fab Five. Now we're in a Fab Four. I'm bringing this up because it was very silly when it was happening, and I believe we probably spent podcast airspace making fun of it when it was happening. You know, if I'm asking these trivia questions, we've done a couple of these, and I'm like, hey, who was in this? Whatever name they had for the top 3 or 4 or 5 players in the world, and almost never do you get exactly right. Ricky won Abu Dhabi. You are right, January 2016. But he was out by this point. He was out of the of consideration on this because he missed the cut at the Masters, missed the cut at the U.S. Open. So he's out of the top 4. But
you're out, kid. DJ's in.
Do you remember why this 4 comes into play? Rory came off your tongue really quickly. Do you remember the little controversy that came up right before this one kicked off? Do you remember this?
I do. Our friend, sweet baby James Corrigan, didn't he write that if there's a Fab Four, that Rory is the Ringo of the Fab
Rory
Four?
McIlroy's in danger of becoming Ringo in this Fab Four scenario. So
was it Corrigan?
It was Corrigan. You're exactly right. So Jason Day, DJ, Spieth, and Rory in that order are the top 4 players in the world. Bubba Watson's 5th. Henrik Stenson is 6th. Ricky, Adam Scott, Danny Willett, and Brandon Grace round off the top 10. Phil Mickelson comes in as the 19th ranked player in the world. Before this Open, the Americans had won every Open at Troon going back to 1950.
Spoiler for mine.
And there is a huge shout out to the RNA for all these official films they do on these championships. One, it makes these deep dives a lot more enjoyable, a lot more fun to go back into, but it's just really great content. And I know we've shouted out a lot of those in the past, but it's just gives the event this gravitas that it deserves. Yep. And just these people speaking directly to camera about what the tournament means and the drama of it, and just letting this tournament live beyond. So that's a criticism I think we have of our critique, if you will, of major championships. Is this incredible week happens and then it's on to the next, and it just kind of can float away if you don't properly document it. And this is available to always go back on. So I don't remember this ever becoming a thing. They maybe kind of forced this one in there. Obviously there was the duel in the sun at Turnberry in '77, which is this is what this duel is often compared to. They called this the Duel of the Suns. Stenson and Mickelson.
Wow, that's
I think it was
pun game.
Kind of tongue in cheek. I don't think they meant it too seriously, but I'd never heard that. I was like, oh, that's actually kind of funny.
That definitely sounds like something that some golf writers would sit around in the media tent, like thinking about and like being like, oh, that's way too corny. Like, but go with it.
Episode 46 of the No Laying Up podcast was recorded in advance of the event with Jamie Kennedy of the European Tour. I could not bring myself to go back and listen to it. I couldn't do it. Probably should have it in preparation, but I'm sure I'd want to claw my ears off. I don't know if that's a phrase, but if I had to go back and listen to that, that's what I would do.
More on that later. I did go back and listen to an old podcast for
the
sake of this.
No. The week prior to this event, the Greenbrier was canceled due to floods. If you remember, that was a massive, massive rainstorm hit down there, and they had to cancel the event. Of course, in 2016, Danny Willett won the Masters. Dustin Johnson won the U.S. Open. DJ also won the Bridgestone just 2 weeks prior to this week. And the PGA Championship was only 2 weeks away from this event. There was 1 week in between, and then we went straight to the PGA. I remember that was in large part because of another thing that would play a large storyline in the lead up to this tournament. Other things in 2016, Adam Scott had won back-to-back events at the Honda and the Cadillac. Jason Day went back-to-back at the Arnold Palmer and the Match Play. Day also won the Players. Spieth won the Tournament of Champions and the Dean and DeLuca, the only year the Dean and DeLuca managed to follow through on their sponsorship of the PGA Tour. Of course, Big Tone won in Puerto Rico. I don't need to remind you of that.
Yeah, of course.
And the big thing, man, is people are bailing left and right on the Olympics. It is like the story.
Zika, baby.
Zika is the main excuse for a lot of people. We'll get into some of that. Pre-tournament line, Jason Day is plus 700, DJ plus 800, Spieth and Rory are plus 1,000. Adam Scott and Sergio are plus 2,000. Brandon Grace and Henrik Stenson are plus 2,500, and Phil is plus 3,000 heading into the week.
Plus 3,000. Wow.
So Rory comes in on this press conference, and I think as I was watching this and listening to this, I think we do need to do an episode, and maybe if we can get Rory to sit down with us and just sit there and react to all of this, but all of the times that Rory has changed his mind on things, we could go back to the Ryder Cup. We could go back to, an example that he gives really, really, really strongly ahead of the Open. Do you remember this press conference? Do you remember like what unfolded before this?
I remember our friend Brendan Porath writing like a very funny piece for SB Nation about it, just about how combative he was. I remember we had a WhatsApp chat going at this time, and just like Rory, like I think we were all loving how Rory was just like giving no fucks, like kind of dropping nukes right and left on the Olympics in general, because we were kind of down on the Olympics at the time, because in part the format was like kind of stupid, like nobody understood it. It wasn't any different than what we were used to normally. And so in general, I think we were kind of like, go Rory.
And there was all kinds of, delays in the golf course, all kinds of drama around the golf course, just felt forced in there. And every golf fan wanted to see a different format than what they actually ended up with in the Olympics. But then the Zika thing happened and everyone's using that as an excuse. But Rory would say he'd already made his decision not to play. He said, I don't feel like I've let the game down at all. I didn't get into golf to try and grow the game. I got into golf to win major championships. I get that I have a responsibility to the game, but at the same time, I got into golf to win. I didn't get into golf to get other people into the game. He would also say, I'm very happy with the decision I made. I have no regrets. I'll probably watch the Olympics, but I'm not sure golf will be one of the events I'll watch. He was then asked, what events are you going to watch? He said, probably the events like track and field, swimming, diving, the stuff that matters.
Woo!
Just like, I remember at this point being like, all right, dude, like you don't have to be this big of a dick
He's
about it.
already dead.
Like,
don't keep beating him.
You don't have to do this. And then, of course, he went and played the Olympics in Japan, and I said something along the lines of, I've never been wrong about anything more in my entire career, as to, it was in a playoff for a bronze medal, and ultimately ended up losing out to CT Pan. But
in his defense, as if you've ever heard this podcast come to his defense before, he was put in a very difficult position, as anyone who understands vaguely about the politics of Northern Ireland.
Sure.
Rory grew up very much feeling English, not Irish. He did play under the flag of Ireland in like junior tournaments, but when it came to the Olympics, it was a lot of pressure for him to sort of choose a side, and essentially like, should you represent this part of you, this part of you? He's a Catholic who grew up in the Protestant part of Ireland. A lot of very complicated politics that made it very hard for him to say I'm one way or another, because he knew he was going to piss off a lot of people. So he just basically was like, I'm removing myself from this conversation.
And he would later go on to represent Ireland when he did play in the Tokyo Olympics. But
under the like kind of agreement that like, hey, I've played for Ireland in the past as a junior golfer, because that's what junior golfers compete in Northern Ireland, but not fully embracing like, hey, I'm Irish. Like, if you, when even like recently when Rory won the Zurich, someone tried to put an Irish flag up on this stage, and he was like, nope. Like, you don't throw the tricolors at Rory, because that is not what he is about.
It's just not about either side, right? He's not,
Exactly.
draping himself in the Union Jack either. So this was a big thing back then. We were just a few months away from doing our first ever podcast with Rory, and I remember he delivered this line. So this must have been a huge, huge thing on his radar at this point. But he said, I've got 4 major championships, and I'd love to add to that tally, just as those guys would love to add to their 1 or 2 majors they have and just keep going. Just reminding people like, hey, I mean, he delivered a line the first time. He's like, yeah, Jason Day, all these guys, they've got
one.
They got one. They got 3 more to get to me. I've got 3 more to get to Arnold Palmer. And Brooks Koepka had 0 at this point, and now Brooks has passed him. So
that was a pretty sick burn back then. It feels less awesome now, but I used that thing in the big Rory sort of recounting of the last 36 majors that he had played in the build up to the U.S. Open. I was like, "Ooh, I remember that quote."
He also is big on drug testing at this point. He said, he said, I could use HGH and get away with it. I think blood testing is something that needs to happen in golf just to make sure we're a clean sport going forward. If golf's in the Olympics and golf wants to be seen as a mainstream sport as such, it has to get in line with other sports that test more rigorously. I don't remember why that was. I mean, I guess they did change over the kind of testing procedures ahead of that, but maybe they weren't testing enough at tour events or whatever it was. But anyways, promise we're going to get to the event eventually. This is the first tournament under a new television deal in both the United States and the UK. Sky Sports replaced the BBC, who held the rights since. Can you venture a guess as to how long BBC had the rights to the Open?
1965.
1955. So this was in the U.S. rights shifted from ESPN to NBC and Golf Channel. This is the first time Golf Channel had coverage of a men's major. First major on NBC since 2014. ESPN and BBC both opted out of the final year of their deals to start on Sky and NBC a year early. And this was the 9th Open Championship that was played at Troon. A young Bryson DeChambeau forfeited his exemption by turning professional after the Masters that year, as did Jon Rahm, but Rahm would earn a spot through the Open qualifying series.
Oh, I wonder how it worked out for those guys. I never heard of them again, I think.
Lot of live going through the 2016 Open Championship. Let me tell you now. You can fill this one in for me. I'm guessing you can get this one. A gentleman said, if you look at the first tee and go directly 180 degrees, it's the 5th house on the right. I used to run up the stairs, have a look and see if the first tee was empty, and run down onto the tee. He struck the opening tee shot on that Thursday morning. Who am I speaking of?
One Colin Montgomery, I believe. Is that correct?
He makes a claim that he's played the course 500 times and never taken a double bogey on the opening hole, but he would make a double bogey to start off his day, unfortunately.
We're going to hear a little bit more about Monty.
Let's go. Phil is absolutely vibing his face off on this Thursday. He's making everything he looks at. He's on an insane run. He birdies the 17th hole, which is a long par 3. And all of a sudden, he has a chance to shoot a 62. He needs birdie on the final hole to shoot 62. He hits up. I mean, I remember this being a massive thing. This is peak golf Twitter. Like, this is like, the last one we did these 2014. It was kind of just getting going then, but this is people were in on this. This was a big thing. Everyone was watching this. He has a putt from, I don't know, 16 feet, I believe it says, and it's in. Like, it's in the whole way. He does the putter lean. It's in, and it lips out on the right side. And I still don't understand how it lipped out. I do not understand it. He's flabbergasted. He's walking back to scoring, like barking at somebody else, a commentator or something. Like, did you see it at the end? I mean, I knew it was going to go back right, but it was in the center. Like, he had to throw in that. Like, I knew it was going right. I knew that, but it was in the center. He would not stop talking about how close it was to going in and how big of a moment this was for him. He's asked in the press conference afterward if he believes in golf gods, and Phil says, I didn't, but I do now. So he opens with
maybe they were trying to punish him or for future sins. What?
I don't know. I had to go to live, guy. I mean, I had to after the golf gods started hating
golf
me.
Gods kind of fuck me. I mean, I had to get a monkey paw and turn to combat their magic.
He shoots 63s, 8 under. He's got a 3-shot lead over Keimer and Reed. Tie for 4th with 67s. Keegan, Big Tone, Billy Horschel, ZJ, who's of course the defending champion, Soren Keltson, Steve Stricker, Andy Sullivan, and Justin Thomas. And of course, Henrik Stenson. So a year, we know it's where this is all headed. And I want to tell a quick story about a year later that summer. I was fortunate to play the Scottish Open Pro-Am there on the west coast of Scotland at Dundonald, very close by to the scene where this place takes place. And I got paired with one Henrik Stenson a year after winning the Open. It was a crazy, awesome experience. And we're walking around.
Podcasters, everything back then. Trying to grow the game, letting these little up and coming whippersnappers play with Open champions in the Scottish Open.
That was my first ever Pro-Am. And there's all these great golf courses along the train tracks there on this part of Scotland. And, we're talking about some of the other courses that are nearby. we're decent, not that far into the round, but I don't know Henrik that well yet. But we get to near one of the greens, and then we're talking about some surrounding courses, and he just goes, "Is Troon near here?" And I bit so fucking hard. Yeah, dude, it's like right over this, right over. And I turned and looked at him, and he just had this like shit-eating Henrik Stenson grin on his face, and I was like, "No, damn it, that was good. I should not have fallen for that, but he got me really good. I'll never forget that story." But
Hell
um,
yeah.
there's rain on Friday, but Henrik Stenson shoots a 65 and is one back eventually at the lead at -9. But the big story of the day, do you remember what happened with Phil Mickelson on this Friday that caught the attention of golf Twitter and would not stop for 3 straight days?
Was it this stupid horse thing?
No, it's even better. Phil Mickelson's wearing a
Oh, the clip.
binder clip on his hat,
Yes.
and tries to explain it away like it's a very normal thing. I was like, "Oh yeah, I mean the hat's just a little too big, so I just put a binder clip on the hat." And
Cantley should have used that
he
in the Ryder Cup.
he he keeps it on there for the rest of the entire week. I still don't really fully understand it. He hits the greens kind of get that little moisture on top of them, and there's all these shots with what Phil brings the phrase "delayed juice" into our lives. Which he hits this shot on the postage stamp hole, the par 3 eighth, and I mean he spins it back to literally less than 5 inches. Like it looks like it's going to go in the hole for an ace. He makes birdie there. He shoots a 69 on this day, and it's wet. Like it's Brawley's out. He gets in the house though, but those two had the good side of the draw. And Friday afternoon gets really testy. The wind and rain arrive hard. Rory's on this side of the draw. Spieth's on this side. Day is on this side. Stricker, who's on the board after day one, was on this side. Ricky, Bubba, Billy Horschel opened with 67, shot 85 to miss the cut. Bubba got so much water on the club face. Like he's just having a horrible time. He's pointing all over the place on this Friday afternoon. And, listen, what these two guys did is historic and amazing. And we're going to get into all that. But it is, if you ever wonder how you can end up that far ahead of the entire board, it comes with you both being on the right side of this draw. And this was a more extreme one. It doesn't explain Henrik being 14 shots clear of third place, but it does explain just a little bit as to a huge part of their competition got wiped out being on the wrong side of the Friday afternoon draw. Again, heading into the weekend, Phil is up by 1. Stenson's 40 years old. He has not had a major. He says there's no guarantee there will ever be another opportunity like this for me again. He starts out and he immediately birdies the first hole. He almost birdies 5 holes in a row to start on Saturday. I mean, listen, the Sunday duel is incredible. Saturday is also awesome. Like it is an incredible one to relive. The two of them are paired together. They played 36 straight holes together on the weekend and just had one of the great slugfests of all time. A little bit of weather on this day as well. Phil is wearing a blue hat and a black sweater.
So weird.
It doesn't look good. It's not good. I don't know why he stuck with this and kind of rode with this throughout the rest of the weekend. But
well, black is more aggressive colors.
It is, but why the blue hat? Just put the black hat on. The blue hat doesn't even fit. We're in a binder clip on this hat. So
he didn't want to infringe on Gary Player's whole fit, the Black Knight. He had to do his own, the blue, the bluish night.
Stenson bogeys the 6th hole and they get back tied again. The wind picks up. There's rain on the camera lens. They're on the postage stamp. The wind is right back in their face. And Henrik comes up way short. He comes up barely short and into the bunker, but was able to manage a bogey. But it was interesting to see the 8th hole bite back a little bit. Phil birdies, makes a birdie on the 13th. He's now 2 shots up with 23 holes to play, but Stenson stuffs it on 14, makes birdie. First birdie since the 4th hole for Stenson on that day. I mean, he absolutely stuffed it on this one. I mean, it's a near tap in. Phil has a short par saver shortly after this, and he misses. He pulls it and misses, and they're back tied. A huge 2-shot swing when Stenson was outside of where Phil was putting from on this one. He makes, Phil misses. And again, like I just don't want to lose track of this fact that Phil is playing this round of golf with a binder clip on his hat. Like there's another image of it here. If you're listening in your car, please check out the YouTube version of this. We have a bunch of images that'll be up on the screen. And again, like he's playing unbelievable golf with a binder clip on his hat to make it fit.
Think about for a second, where did he get the binder clip? It's not like a binder clip is like in abundance at a golf, in a golf club shop, right? At a clubhouse. So either he brought along the binder clip knowing that the hat didn't quite fit, or he had Bones run out and get a binder clip, or he, sent Steve Loy into town to get a binder clip. Like the possibilities are so stupid and yet fascinating to me.
Or he planned it coming in. I mean, you never. I really think that there has to be some kind of play with Phil with this. It has to be, and it bothered me. The only things I could find were him just like explaining it away like it wasn't a big deal. It's like, dude, you're wearing a fucking binder clip. Phil misses the green on the par 3 17, makes bogey. Henrik steps up. He's got 3 iron. The wind is whipping. I meant to grab the audio for this and I didn't get around to it. But if you go find the 24-minute mark of the official film from the RNA and the Open Championship on this, and just listen to this strike. It is like one of the purest strikes with a 3 iron you'll ever hear. Just absolutely flush. He hits it in there tight. Another 2-shot swing. Henrik Stenson leads by 1. They both make par on 18. Henrik shoots 68. Phil shoots 70. Henrik's taking a 1-shot lead at -12 into the final round. Phil's at 11. Bill Haas is at -6. Beef is at -5. I don't remember this nearly as much. Beef is a media darling in all of this. And he does an interview in the official film as well. Like, nobody could possibly come off more likable than Beef does in this whole thing of just like his pleasantry of just acknowledging every single person. Maybe Bryson watched this before he did his, kind of whatever the opposite of a heel turn is, of just how to treat the gallery, how to like get, celebrate and laugh it up. They're all cheering him on. He's going nuts. He's just saying like, he's taking the walk up 18. I'll never ever forget this the rest of my entire life. It's a good feel good. I think they're kind of trying to find a story other than these two guys going head to head a little bit, but Beef delivered a lot of that.
Beef got his 15 minutes there. It was really never the same again for Beef.
It was, I mean, he's asked in the presser what he had for dinner the night before. He said, it was a pizza. And the guy's like, how big? He's like, I don't know, like a 10-incher. It wasn't a 20-incher. Like, you win a T-shirt if you finish it, kind of thing. And somebody asks him in the presser how much he weighs, and he goes, I have no idea. You want to pick me up?
Good for Beef. God, just crushing his moment in the sun.
He's like, and he's giving all this reaction of like, and then one fella, he asked me this, and I just give it right back to him. It's very pleasant. Again, this film is worth watching ahead of if you want to get hyped for Royal Troon. Rory throws a 3-wood on this Saturday and breaks it. That went over really well.
I do remember, I think Kyle Porter making a joke about like maybe he can use Phil's binder clip to put Rory's 3-wood back together.
I think that was me. We'll get to that. There's 26 tweets.
Sorry.
We got some tweets we got to get through here at the end. But Stenson is asked in the presser afterwards, he said, Phil beat you into second place in the Open 3 years ago. And he interrupts to say, thanks for reminding me. And the journalist says, please tell me there's revenge on your mind. And Stenson replies, there's always revenge.
There's always revenge. What a Bond villain moment.
Kind of ominously, honestly. There's always revenge. So here is the big fat yellow leaderboard heading into that final day. Sunday opens up. Thomas Peters snapped a club in half and threw it straight into the gorse. That's an image I don't think I'll ever forget. Stenson said, before I left my house on Sunday morning, I had a brief moment where I looked myself in the mirror and I just told myself, this is your time. You can do this. This is the way it's meant to be. Make this happen. And Kevin, I'm here to report that he did, in fact, make this happen.
He did it happen, yeah. I'm not misremembering that Stenson just absolutely stepped on throats the following day.
What unfolded is truly maybe the greatest final round in major championship golf history. I mean, Phil Mickelson is a 5-time major champion at this point. He's an Open champion. He's the second best player of the generation. Second, only to the greatest player of all time. I don't care if he's wearing a fucking binder clip. He's Phil Mickelson. He comes out on this day and absolutely stuffs it into the first hole. This is the distance that he had, about a foot into the first, and he makes birdie. Henrik makes bogey, and Phil now leads by 1. We get to the next hole. Phil lips out a chip shot over a bunker on the second hole and makes par. But Henrik Stenson steps up, rolls one in from 15 feet. We're tied at -12 through 2 holes. Get to the third hole. Phil hits it to 7 feet. Henrik hits it to about 20 feet. And you can see here, I have a couple of these images here to show of where Stenson is putting from on these greens. And a few, I don't need to narrate a lot of these to say, this goes directly into the center. You can see Phil's mark there on the left side of that, 7 feet away. Phil misses. So a little Mongolian reversal there. Henrik's up by 1. He's made back-to-back birdies. Phil steps up and absolutely stuffs a long iron into the par 5 fourth and rolls in the eagle. Phil is
Wow.
3 under through 4, and has only managed to tie Stenson at 14 under, as Stenson also makes birdie on the par 5. The next closest to them at this point already is 7 under par. So they are 7 shots clear of third place with 14 holes to go. It is truly a two-man race. JB Holmes and Beef are at -7. They also both birdie the par 5 sixth hole. They're tied at 15 when they get to the postage stamp. Phil hits a great one into about 12 feet. Henrik's about 15 to 18 feet away, but he pours it in again. Phil misses. He leads at 16, and it is Stenson's 5th birdie in 7 holes. Phil is 4 under through 8 and has gained absolutely nothing on Henrik Stenson to this point.
Wow.
They get to 10. It's a hard par 4. It's not an easy golf hole. Phil hits it in there to 10 feet. Stenson matches. Stenson putts first. Drano. Phil is next. Drano. Still just 1 back. They go to the 11th, which is the Gorse the Horse hole. Shane Bacon, I don't remember why, but he just named the horse that was right at the 11th hole Gorse the Horse, and made that a huge Twitter thing. And it still remained. I saw Gorse when we were up there at Troon back in March.
Gorse may still be alive. I believe Shane was tweeting about him just a few days ago.
They get to this 11th, the railway hole. Stenson lips out a par, so he makes bogey. Phil makes par. They're tied at 16, 7 holes to play, and Phil has a struggle on the 12th hole. He has to pitch from the long stuff over a bunker. Like you can just see where Phil's lie is here. This is quite unpleasant. Hits it there to about 25 feet up the hill, maybe 30 feet. But drains it, saves the par putt. We are still tied at 16 under. They are 10 clear of the field as they get to the 14th hole.
They're just throwing lightning bolts at each other. That's what I remember. Like 2 Greek gods just clashing.
And it's even better than I remember, dude. It's even better. Stenson, this is Phil's uphill putt that he pours in the center, of course, gives the fist pump there. They're playing the 14th. Stenson hits it to about 20 feet. Again, showing this length. It's not an easy putt, not a short putt. Stenson drains it, absolutely pours it in the center. He's got a 1-shot lead with 4 to play. They're off to the 15th hole. Phil is now 10 shots clear of third place. Henrik is 11 shots clear of third place. It's sick. They get to 15. The wind is in off the left. I thought this was an interesting note of, if Phil is going to run Stenson down, Stenson has the hardest possible wind you can have coming in here for a right-hander, and not nearly as difficult of a wind for a left-hander. He hits it to 35 feet, maybe 40 feet on 15. Sure, just lag it up there, whatever. He fucking drains it. He drains it again. He hits the putt and starts walking after it. I don't know if you remember this. I don't know if he thinks it's short or what. He starts walking after it, pours it in, and just lets out an enormous fist pump at the ground. Just probably the moment of the tournament, just iconic image. This ended up actually being a poster, the Open Championship poster, I think, for the next year. Or he signed a bunch of those. I remember that.
Yeah.
And it's awesome. It's an incredible moment. Now he's up by 2. Phil gives it a really good run from long distance, but it misses, and there's 3 holes to play. But they're at the par 5 16th, and Phil hits a majestic fairway wood into 16. I mean, it is just an awesome swing. Bones is yelling at it in the air. Come on. And he hits it to about 30 feet for eagle. And again, no one else in the field is better than 6 under par. All this talk of all these birdies, all these eagles, it is all coming from one group. Nobody's better than 6 under par. Like, think how many birdies and eagles like we've ripped off to this point. Nobody else in the field is doing this on this day. There were 13 rounds in the 60s alone on this day on a par 71 course. Only 2 guys shot better than 67, and that was Henrik and Phil in the final pairing of the Open Championship.
Yowzers.
Again, Phil's got 30 feet for eagle down 2, and Stenson is in the left fescue, like maybe 45 yards away from the pin here on 16. No guarantee at all that he's going to get this up and down, but he does have a good lie, and he hits it out to about 6 feet. And Phil's got this putt, and he hits an awesome putt. It is such a good putt, and like this image that you see up here is it falling across the hole towards us at the bottom. Like, it's falling to his left. Like, if it had one more revolution of speed, it would have fallen in the front. Phil cannot believe it. Bones cannot believe it. He just does this classic staring at it, can't believe it. Stenson cannot believe it, looks over at Phil and gives him like the little cursed lip look of like, man, we thought you made that one. Henrik, of course, steps up and absolutely drains the putt, and he's out. It could have been a 2-shot swing. It could have been all tied. And Stenson's now 7 under on the day. Phil is 6 under on the day. Heading to the difficult par 3 17th. Henrik steps up again and just absolutely flushes it and flags a 4-iron. Like, it is,
God.
again, another shot that just like rings in your ears, hits it to maybe 7 feet. And Phil misses left of the green, but makes a really nice up and down. And Henrik actually missed this 7-footer. So I thought he made this putt. Yeah, I thought he made this. And I was stunned when he missed this watching the replay. But they're going to the last hole. Stenson's 19 under. Phil is 17 under par. 2-shot lead, of course, and Stenson has to hit the fairway, and this thing is over. And he goes to his trusty 3-wood, and he mashes it, flushes it down the right side, heads over a hill, disappears out of view from him. It's heading towards the bunker, and it stops a foot away from the fairway bunker. And I don't know if it would have been a pitch out sideways, but it is comic, almost affects where his left foot would have to be when he steps up for his stance as to how close this ball was to going in that fairway bunker, which Phil would have needed to make birdie, and Stenson bogey just to tie. But it is so lucky. He thought it was in the bunker. There's just maybe this teeny tiny little upslope on the way to that bunker. Because even if you watch the replay, it looks like it's getting ready to roll into it, and it just comes to a crawl. Mashes another iron. Again, it's just like the best somebody could have possibly hit irons over the course of 36 holes over the weekend. He hits it. He turns around and gets mad at a camera clicking, and you think like maybe he hit a bad shot into this green, but it's 25 feet. It's over. They get one of the coolest and best ovations you can ever hear in a golf tournament walking up this. Like, people are just so appreciative of the show that's been on. He steps up and he fucking drained the putt. He made it again. He made it again from 25 feet to close it out, to shoot 63, 8 under par 63 in the final round with 10 birdies. He made 2 bogeys and shot 63 to go out and win the Open Championship. This is your final leaderboard. He is 3 shots clear of Phil. He is 14 shots clear of JB Holmes in second place at 6 under par.
Sort of like a deal with the devil type putting. I mean, I don't think you could ever putt better than that in a major championship. No. Like, I can't remember a single putting performance better.
Which, like, maybe there's something to Troon, and that's a takeaway I had from doing the Justin Leonard one, is how many putts he made in 1997, which we'll get to here in this episode. But making all these putts, it's maybe something to look at it ahead of the Open here in a couple weeks. Of, you can putt these greens. I mean, we have a video that'll come out in the same. I made a ton of putts at Troon when we were out there. I don't know if it's just flat greens or whatever it is, but the conditions are light. It's one of the more gettable courses. Now, this course has been lengthened a fair amount since 2016, but again, it's just like that was what got me. It was like, yeah, you remember the duel? Like, it must have been kind of easy. Like, you remember Liverpool in 2006 when Tiger won it at whatever under par that he was? I think it was 18 under. Everybody was low on that one, but this is such a freaking outlier, man. Nobody else but Phil was better than -6. I still have never seen a leaderboard like that. Data Golf had Phil's performance as the 4th best major performance of all time since 1983. The 4th best, and he didn't win. Like, the next best, I was going to try to quiz you on this, see if you could guess the next best major performance of somebody that didn't win. It was Bob May in the 2000 PGA. That's considered to be the best strokes gained of somebody that did not win a major. Like, the chart is, so basically it's like, if you go by the list of the most strokes gained in a single major championship, literally everybody has won if you've gained more than 5.6 shots, and Phil gained 6.6. He had an expected win percentage of 0.99999. He would have won every Open Championship on his gross score, except for like 2 or 3 of them in the history of the Open Championship. It's like and I've heard this, privately, like this was one that like kind of broke Phil a little bit. I mean, he would rebound and win the PGA Championship 5 years later. I don't know how broken, he really was, but this like messed with him for like putting this.
He probably had like 100 million on himself. So like, they broke him. We just have to determine the meaning of broken.
We can get to some of that here in a second, because that was a theme in a lot of tweets and jokes back in 2016. But What else do we have? Phil said afterward, he said, whenever he's played at this level, he's won, and this is difficult for him. Jack Nicklaus wrote Henrik Stenson and told him it was the greatest round of golf he's ever seen. Tom Watson also agreed that this battle was even better than the Turnberry duel in the sun. And again, Phil Mickelson shot a final round 65, playing in the final group of in the Open Championship and lost by 3. He lost ground. He lost ground on Henrik Stenson. They played in 3 hours and 40 minutes.
Oh my goodness!
Per a trusted source, that is Dennis J. Pyhowski on Twitter, who was not. Wow. I cannot verify this. He was not a part of No Laying Up at this time, so I don't know if we can verify that fact. But
part of the crooked other media, I think.
Yeah. Bacon and I used to do a dumb bet for majors back in this day, and I lost this one, and I had to try like mac and Cheetos, something from Burger King. But I think I got off on this one because they didn't have these in Europe at this time.
Man, you still might have to pay out that bet.
I don't think they had. I think it was like a seasonal. I don't think those things last.
You don't think mac and Cheetos is still around?
I don't think they are. I would do it. Trust me, I would do
Probably
it.
Some expired bags in a warehouse somewhere. If you're listening and you have some mac and Cheetos, please send us.
I don't even know what it is. Is it a Cheeto? Is it mac and? I don't know. But
that's the mystery.
Dan Hicks gave it a Jim Nantz how sweet it is call, which I think that one plays. I think that works. Yeah, that works. I really don't remember this, but a lot of people were commenting on this. At one point, Johnny Miller said that Rory's tight shirts were holding him back. That was
yes. God, that was the good shit back then.
I don't remember where this came from. There's this iconic image here as well as when Henrik and Phil are walking off the green. Phil just looks flabbergasted. I went back and looked at a whole bunch of people's tweets. I'm gonna run through the highlights from the No Laying Up account. This was when Twitter was funny. Like you could be funnier back then. I got a kick out of some of these, but I just said calling Henrik Stenson champion golfer of the year does not do justice for what we just witnessed. I said, this is Troon's way of apologizing for Todd Hamilton. Can't wait to hear what you've got cooking here next, Kevin. I was big on doing Phil quotes back in the day, fake Phil quotes. And so this one is apologies if you're watching YouTube, you could read these, but it said, Phil, all square and I'm one up on the press. Stenson, what? Phil, do not act like you did not hear me call it on the tee. This one was very prescient. I started a Kickstarter for NBC to get Pro Tracer, which they had.
They didn't have Pro Tracer.
They had no Pro Tracer yet. They had like a bunch of other majors had it already. Like Fox had the first U.S. Open the year prior, and they were like blazing the trail on Pro Tracer. And I think the PGA Tour even had a bunch of different Pro Tracers at this point in 2016. But
NBC was behind on the technology.
You would not even believe it. A bunch of people.
No way.
We were not happy about it 8 years ago either. Rory wore a catcher's chest protector one of the days. It got shredded a little bit for that one. And then Phil, with this little smirky Phil picture, said, "Would you successfully hedge the decreasing value of the British pound by betting on yourself legally?" This was.
I think that's one of my 5 favorite pictures of Phil.
It's amazing.
It's just one of the best.
It's amazing, and it's weird to look back on now, where you can bet legally now in the U.S., but obviously could not at the time. And then this was the highlight. I think Phil plays so well in foreign territory because he knows the FBI has no jurisdiction there. It was.
Yeah,
that played well in 2016 Twitter, but
and he made it into a way of life.
I went and found a couple other. TC was tweeting more about the Barbasol than he was the Open, so I couldn't find a bunch of Open Championship tweets from him. But he said 100% chance that Monty is posted up right now in the clubhouse with his posse and a giant bowl of custard. He said, will JJ Day's rib injury resurface this week? It was a Twitter poll that got 314 votes. 80% said yes. I forgot he was called Jason Day, JJ Day. I believe a crossover from JJ Watt.
Yeah. Who's still on TC's menace list.
Exactly. We have Traum is also mad about Pokemon. He said there's hundreds of junkies staring blankly at phones while he's trying to walk his dogs in the park. That was a very 2016 tweet.
This is kind of when you were sort of just like doing all the work, Soly at NLU, and the other boys were, just popping in every now and then.
I think he had a kid at the. No, he was just getting ready to have a kid. And his job was different than mine, and my hours. It helped being in Europe. Like I was actually able to watch golf in the evenings and actually do stuff. But Kevin Van Valkenburg got in on the coverage takes, and the paucity of Pro Tracer on NBC's broadcast is infuriating. I have to agree with you on that one.
Because I had like a word of the day calendar.
Yeah, I don't know where you got paucity from.
What a smug asshole using paucity on Twitter.
You and I were making a bunch of tweets about Game of Thrones back at each other. Those did not age that well.
No.
Bacon tweeted current world rankings of the last 9 major champions: 4, 4, 3, 3, 18, 1, 9, 2, and 6. Which I thought was pretty sweet. And again, this was the beginning of Gorse the horse for Bacon, showing the actual illustration for where Gorse lives. This was the official bet that we had: creamy mac and crispy Cheetos, mac and Cheetos from the Burger King as well. That was, and he smoked me in that bet.
You throw some Cheetos and some mac and cheese. I could see that being decent.
I think it looks
really... Not Burger King. I don't know if I'd want to eat that, but a homemade situation maybe.
I think 29-year-old me could have done this a lot better than 37-year-old me could. But this was a random image I had of when Phil missed the putt on 18 on Thursday. Bones just on his back by the bunker there, falling over on his back in disbelief that putt missed. That was a random one. And Porter had some dynamite tweets. Again, the Phil Bones conversations. Phil, give me my phone. Bones, no. Phil, did the Indians win last night? Bones, Phil, we have 9.5 holes left. Little did we know he was actually doing this in the President's Cup. Sitting on a tree stump getting updates on college football games or whatever it was.
Oh God, when art becomes life. Like he truly was having these conversations.
Bones, tea time. Let's go. Phil, hold on. I got this Austrian in under 4 hours, 16 minutes, and 20 seconds. Bones, is that the Tour de France? Phil, 30-1.
30-1.
There's an image of Phil's. Well, Ladbrokes, I got me Jordan Patrick to finish in the top 10 at 95-1 at William Hill. I got ... DJ Pie had some good ones as well. I said the open week ranked. He said number 1, 63, number 2, 65, number 3, 62.5, which is what people were calling Phil's round on Thursday. 4, Beef. 5, Rory Presser. 6, Johnny Miller. 7, the postage stamp. 8, Paces Play. 9, Binder Clip. Rory, number 10, Rory 3-wood. DJ said chance at 20 under par. That's not going to make the members happy. Again, some of this stuff just tickled me. Phil hits it to 18 feet on 12. I'll finish. I guess I didn't screenshot the Binder Clip to put the 3-wood back together, but that was in there as well. But that's what I got for 2016. One of the best major championships. And again, I mean, we just, after reacting to Pinehurst, we're all calling it the best major we'd ever seen or whatnot. Like, it was good to remember, like 2016 Open was pretty darn epic as well.
Yeah. Well done. All
right.
I felt like I was reliving it, on my family reunion at 2 a.m. on the television with a drink in my hand. Gosh, we were so much younger then. What became of us now?
No Laying Up is sponsored by FanDuel. Whether you're playing golf or betting on it, there's nothing worse than first tee jitters. But with FanDuel, you can crush your first bet off the tee. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets guaranteed with any $5 bet. That's $150, win or lose. We like to make a ton of picks, especially ahead of the major championships. We're going to have a whole preview video next week of all the stuff that we're looking at. I especially love looking over the odds on Sundays, trying to pick out a winner on that Sunday. Maybe parlay with some baseball action like we did last week. TC is cooking up parlays on the regular, so you can find those out in FanDuel's golf offerings. They've been such a great supporter of our content. We've been doing a lot of fun stuff with them. So go for the green all season long with PGA Tour bets like longest drive, closest to pin, outright winners, and more. FanDuel.com/NLU. Hit your first bet right down the middle of the fairway with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. FanDuel, official betting operator of the PGA Tour. Must be 21 or older, 18 or older in D.C. and present in select states. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit rg-help.com. First online real money wager only. $10 first deposit required. Bonus issued as non-withdrawable bonus bets that expire 7 days after receipt. Restrictions apply. See terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. Back to the pod.
I'm going to take you back to 2004 at Troon for the Open Championship. Soly, the official World Golf Ranking. You always play this game with me, so I'm going to try and see
Damn
if
it.
you can
I was
guess.
wondering when you were going to do this because it's
I
so
know.
easy to be on the other side. It's
It
so hard
sure
on
is.
this side.
All right. Number one's pretty easy. Let's
Elgato.
start there. The Tiger. All right. So what do we got? 2, 3, 4, 5. What's
Two's got to be VJ at this point.
close, but
Phil.
not quite.
Phil is
Phil
still.
BJ. Nope.
Oh, number 2 in the world in 04. Ernie.
Ernie was number 2.
Okay.
VJ will take over number 1 by the end of the year.
Got it.
But VJ is number 3. Then Phil is 4. But who do we go from there?
Furyk 5.
Not quite. Furyk is 9.
Okay. 04. Who won the majors that year? Who won the US? So is Retief up there?
Retief is 6.
Okay. Phil won the Masters that year. Is David Toms up there?
David Toms is not up there. He's in fact 16th in the world at this point.
Gosh, this is way harder on this side. Is Adam Scott up there yet? He won the Players that year.
Adam Scott is 11th.
Okay,
so
that was
just
close.
Missing out.
Scott Verplank.
Scott Verplank is not up there. Scott Verplank is 19th in the world at this point.
Tom Lehman.
No, Tom Lehman is not even in the top 20, I believe.
I'm trying to think of who else was on this Ryder Cup team in 2004. I think Fred Funk was on that team, but I doubt he was in the top 10.
Fred Funk will come into play in this discussion, but he is not ranked in the top 20.
This is not a very good effort from me. All right, let me think. Colin Montgomery's got to be up there.
He is not. Colin Montgomery has in fact fallen to like 72nd in the world at this point.
Did not know that. All right, make me look bad. That was not my best. I gotta get back in the lab.
Okay, it's hard. It's hard when
we've never covered this time period in any of our stuff.
That's true. Davis Love III is 5th in the world.
Okay.
We said Retief Grusin is 6th. Mike Weir is 7th.
Masters
still playing some pretty good golf there. Padraig Harrington is 8th. We said Furyk is 9th, and Sergio Garcia is the 10th ranked golfer in the world.
Definitely should get
also
Sergio.
Appearing up there in order: Adam Scott, Kenny Perry, Chad Campbell, Stuart Appleby, Darren Clark, David Toms, Stephen Ames, the 17th ranked golfer in the world. Fred Couples still ranked 18th in the world. Then Verplank, and then Jay Haas. Soly, this is going to be Tom Weiskopf's last competitive tournament. Weiskopf, of course, won the Open Championship at Troon in 1973. As sort of a send-off, passing of the torch in some ways. He plays a practice round with one Tiger Eldrick Woods. He says, "I've never seen him hit a golf ball in person until this morning. It is awesome. He defines the complete player. I don't think he enjoyed it as much as I did, or a tenth as much as I did." Tiger is the talk of the golf world as always during this period, but he has gone 8 consecutive majors without a major, and people are wondering what is going on. There is a ton of questions about his game. He has parted ways with Butch Harmon earlier in the year, and he is receiving lots of criticism as a result, as he's only won once this season, defeating Davis Love in the match play. Nick Price is asked about Tiger in this era, about what's going on, what's wrong. And Price, always a pretty good quote, says, "Pure and simple, he can't drive the ball in the fairway. From all I've seen the last 5 months, his off the tee game is so erratic. There's no pattern to it because he's losing it left and right. Until he starts to hit the ball in the fairway, he is going to struggle." Appreciate that sort of candid speaking about Tiger, because not too many people would risk that back in the day. Tiger's going to get married later in the year to Elin Nordegren, his the former nanny of Jesper Parnevik. Tiger, we always like to cover some of the best sports writing back in the day. There's a lot of talk that maybe Tiger will stop being so bad at golf if he finally gets married, because he's being distracted by his wedding planning. Here from the San Francisco Chronicle, here's a thought. Tiger, who hasn't won a major since 2002, comes back better than ever next year. He's no longer hassled by phone conversations with florists, no longer arguing with wedding band Hootie and the Blowfish over the set list. And he's no longer wondering if it's okay to sit Oprah at his dad's table for fear that Earl will make an off-color remark. Tiger will be freed from pre-wedding shackles and get back to posting lower scores than any other player on the planet. Tiger actually did have Hootie and the Blowfish as his wedding band, so that this is not an actual sort of joke, which is sick. He got married in Barbados later that year. But before that happens, Tiger comes in,
Well,
and people think,
let's see,
go ahead.
just real quick, like 8 majors in a row for Tiger to not win. I'm going off memory on this, but I think I can do it. He won 99 PGA, 2000 US
Yep.
Open, 2000 Open, 2000 PGA, 2001 Masters,
Mm-hmm.
2002 Masters, 2002 US Open. All,
Mm-hmm.
and then went 8 straight without winning, right? So
That
he
is
he
correct.
won
Yes.
4 out of 5, or he won 4 in a
8
row,
majors at that
5 out of
point.
6, and then he won 7 out of whatever over a 3-year span. So
Yep.
kind of somewhat fair at the time to be like, "Hey, what happened here, dude?"
Yeah. All right, Sally, if you think that 2004 is long enough time for the Brits to be over what happened at the Ryder Cup at Brookline, oh, you are definitely wrong there, because
The statute of
Justin
limitations is not up on this for another 20 years, I think.
Justin Leonard being back to sort of talk about what it's like to, be the Open champion, returning to Troon, is really just another excuse to talk about the Ryder Cup again. Leonard's Ryder rage can pass into history at Troon. It's the gist of this is basically like, if Justin Leonard continues to be a classy champion, perhaps we will in time forget about what happened in 1999. So I'm quoting here from the Evening Standard. It says, nearly 5 years have gone by since the scene of one of the greatest outrages in sporting history. The mere mention of Leonard's name is still enough to send shivers down the spines of certain members of the European golf hierarchy. They declared that one of the reasons he was so offensive what was done. Now, keep in mind, Justin Leonard didn't do this. He didn't run across anyone's line in the putt, just the Americans. But one of the reasons that he is so offensive is because he was seen as the most swanky Yank, one of America's most eligible bachelors, and someone whose trousers had creases so sharp they could cut through the steel-tempered shaft of a club.
Justin Leonard, The Bachelor. I don't know if
Yes.
I recall this.
Yes. It goes on to say that the subsequent rage from the Ryder Cup overshadowed his major win. But galleries here should really start warming towards the American who's handled himself with class. Justin Leonard reveals within this piece that he still has really fond memories towards Troon, loves it a lot, hopes that the people here will still love him and appreciate him. He says that he has a white lab that he has named Troon's Magical Sunday, which strikes me as weird. So, like, wouldn't you just name your dog Troon?
Just Troon
Like,
will work.
damn it, Troon's Magical Sunday, come back here, honey. Troon's Magical Sunday needs some more kibble.
And this is prior, like, as soon as Stenson does what he does, I think it's like, oh shit, we got to rename this dog. Like, I don't know if this is the Magical Sunday anymore.
This Magical Sunday was still to come. I don't imagine that dog's alive now. So maybe
Probably
that could
not.
be Troon's Magical Sunday Part 2 or Junior. All right, because the nines at Troon are
Troon's
so...
Magical Sorry, I was almost a spit take there on Troon's Magical Sunday Junior. I want to give a shout out to our friends at Mizuho. Mizuho Americas is part of the Mizuho Financial Group, the 15th largest bank in the world. Mizuho Americas is a corporate and investment bank serving corporate and institutional clients. They advise and fund businesses looking to go public, raise money, expand operations, or connect with large investors. I know a lot of listeners out there work in this line of work. So when I say that you may not know the name Mizuho, a lot of you have reached out and say, yeah, no, we're very familiar with the name Mizuho. They help finance large infrastructure projects that promote civic improvement. It is a name worth knowing. They're the title sponsor of the Mizuho Americas Open 2 years running at Liberty National. They're doing great things in golf, great things with the women's game, great things with our content as well, supporting us as well. So we greatly appreciate it. Big shout out to Mizuho. For more information, visit MizuhoAmericas.com. Again, that's MizuhoAmericas.com. Back to the podcast.
Because the nines are so different at Troon, which you will see in our video coming out eventually, easy going out, hard coming back because of the wind, because of the way the holes play, most likely. A lot of the players are talking about how you have to really get after it on the front. The back nine will get a little tougher, as you sort of talked about in yours. The wind for right handers is going to be tough. Tiger Woods, who plays a practice round, gets done with the front nine and walks off the ninth green and says, oh, that was the JV. This is the varsity. Which I hope we can continue to use, because it's the best Tiger kind of thing. Oh, that was the varsity.
That's the varsity. JV.
So like qualifying is a little different this year in 2004. For the first time, there was a US based qualifying tournament for the British Open. Previously, non-exempt players didn't have to had to come to Britain to play a 36-hole qualifier.
Hmm.
So this year, there's a field of 120 spots available at Congressional for however many spots is going to go. I think it's 5. Only 68 PGA Tour players show up, and the Brits are pissed.
Let's
Oh my
go.
goodness. They feel that their championship is being disrespected. What do I think? Said Jonathan Cheatham, a 37-year-old English pro who qualified for his first British Open. I should keep that to myself. He tells Bob Herrig of the St. Pete Times, they might not let me back into your country if I said what I really think. Weiskopf, never one to shy away from a good quote, says the Open should deny entry to anyone in the future who skipped out without a legitimate excuse. That was terrible. They're spoiled. They have no spirit of adventure, says Weiskopf.
Tough to disagree. It's if
Exactly.
you qualified for this event, you go fucking play it in
Paying for
2004.
bucks.
Like, come on.
Billy Mayfair, Scott Hoke, Corey Pavin are among those who skip qualifying. Fred Funk is qualified to play in this, but he decides to skip out. Do you know why?
To prepare for the playoffs. No, the playoffs aren't there yet. Probably. Is there an opposite? Don't tell me there's an opposite field event that he goes and plays.
There's an opposite field event that he goes and plays because he wants to accumulate Ryder Cup points. He really wants to be on the Ryder Cup team. So he goes and plays the BC Open. Do you know where he finishes in the BC Open, Scott?
4th.
He does not make the cut. Which apparently like delights various members of the Brits who sort of dunk all over him.
Well, yeah.
This is sort of certainly a departure from how things used to be. That's part of the reason why the Brits are upset is because the long history of the British Open, you always had to qualify. In fact, when Arnold Palmer won the 1961 Open at Birkdale, he still had to qualify the next year to Troon. The defending champion did not get a spot in the Open Championship the following year. This quote made me laugh just because we're always talking about that thing with Gary Player of saying, oh, what about all those foreigners, Gary? And he's like, I'm a foreigner. Anyway, one of the Brits, James Morrison, an amateur from England, talking about the qualifying, says, everyone seems really angry about it. If they're going to allow so many foreigners, that means the Americans, at least they can do is show up. It's a shame, really. Australian Mark Hensby, who wins the John Deere the week before, turns down a spot in the Open Championship. He says, that was a no-brainer. I've never played a course like that. Dog, grew up in Australia and you've never played any kind of like links course? Like, what are we doing here? But he's just like, I don't want to go over and make a fool of myself. It's Troon, so you know what that means, as you covered a little bit in yours. Monty. Monty, of course, his father was the secretary at Troon for many years. He lived in a house just off of Troon. He spent a large portion of his childhood playing Troon, but because he has fallen so far down in the rankings because of some personal strife that we shall get to in a second, he has to go through qualifying. But he does qualify for the Open Championship, and so the dream of Monty bringing home the Claret Chug at age 41 is still within reach. If people think that that the press is like unfair or mean to Rory, that we should sort of leave his personal life alone or whatever, I would like to read you a few things that people would write about Monty back in the day.
Am I going to get canceled for laughing about this?
Maybe. We'll see. All right, this is from The Guardian. I believe this is actually later in the year, but it seemed relevant to what we're sort of talking about here. Colin Montgomerie has what he described as an interesting year, starting in the divorce courts, then the Ryder Cup, the gossip columns, and more likely Weight Watchers Weekly. The Scot, a Leeds United supporter with leanings towards Chelsea, that's its own dig at him, once looked as though he had eaten all the pies, has lost nearly 3 stone since the Open Championship in July, and admitted that his self-esteem has gone up as his weight has gone down. So now his eligibility rating, now that he is divorced from his wife, Emer, as he has slipped down the world golf rankings, as he's currently 70th, Montgomerie has skyrocketed up the Babe Magnet Bachelor rankings, a singular experience for the formerly flabby 41-year-old father of 3.
Jesus. You got any images of him during this time?
I do have a couple. Let me sort of spin through here. I mean, just a pure sex symbol. Monty actually, after this Open Championship, like really quickly after this Open Championship, ends up dating a smoking Spanish model. I guess that one image did not upload of him. Okay. But Monty truly like the pinnacle of like the Austin Powers-esque sex symbol. It's been a tough year for Monty. After a miserable score of 80 at Augusta, he's eliminated from the tournament and stomped off the course, ignoring reporters, ignoring autograph seekers, and even ignoring his wife in the process. She was reported to have sought out his caddy 4 hours later in a restaurant in Augusta to ask if anyone had seen her husband. It was far from the first time that the golfers' demons had gotten the better of them at the expense of their marriage. Couple, the Montgomerys had already gone through a trial separation back in 2000, which led to Monty openly weeping during the British Open after a bad shot on the 12th hole. He later admitted in his autobiography that he felt his obsession with golf had sort of ruined his like marriage, and it had been very difficult. He said, I found it difficult to blame myself for any of our problems at that stage. I just saw myself as a good husband. I was neither a womanizer nor a drinker, and I had always hurried home at the end of every tournament. It was all golf, 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 golf. And my wife was like, okay, I'm pregnant. And I'm like, all right, well, I've got a tournament coming up. But I look back now on my behavior and wince. The gossip columns are raging because during this time, his Monty's wife has been spotted with Hugh Grant, actor, and is rumored to be having an affair. A 2 full-page story exploring whether or not they're having an affair appears in the Glasgow Times.
Which, like, I'm not well schooled on these tabloids and all this stuff. Like, is there a percentage of like what's your like journalistic process here for taking this information as like as fact?
Basically, from what I grasp, is when it comes to these romantic linkings things, if you are basically seen with anyone, so I guess it started out as like at a polo match, like they were friendly and they were talking to each other. And for years, people just ran with the fact that they might be having an affair, like never based in any sort of like fact, or never came out later that they had actually been together. Just that Hugh Grant was sort of a cad and he was, the man about England, was sort of prancing around, bit of a swordsman, as we say, with various ladies. But yes, Monty's wife was rumored to be in a relationship with Hugh Grant. The couple ends up getting divorced like right around the Open Championship time. And Monty's just like kind of all up and down. He doesn't really know. It did find sort of interesting in the relationship. They actually met when she was a 17-year-old aspiring law student, when Monty was sort of hanging around back. After he graduated from college, he kept taking trips back to England because his mother was dying. And just a few houses down was this young lady who he was 25, I believe, at the time, and wooed her. They got married at the Troon Old Parish Church. And the reception, which was a huge social event, was held alongside the 18th fairway of the course. A lot of hope that Monty will do well here. A lot of people kind of wishing that he would finally bring home the claret jug, but knowing that his personal life is basically in shambles at this stage, unlikely to make a one final run. Soly, the first round kicks off, and the first round leader is Paul Casey and Thomas LeVay. Thomas LeVay had to qualify to get in. Paul Casey says basically, I've learned to calm myself down in majors. I know I can handle this pressure now. Basically, it's I look forward to big things coming forward for me.
Oh, they're coming, buddy.
I always love to play this game of giving you the first name of someone and seeing if you can guess who they are. There's a person who is at 3 under in the first round named Gary. Do you know who Gary is? The Ryder Cupper for England at one point.
Gary, I don't. I have no idea.
Gary Evans, who apparently made a double bogey late in the round in his Ryder Cup match in 1993, I believe, and is openly ridiculed every time he is mentioned as the person who lost the Ryder Cup for Europe by the English press. Just basically like Gary Evans, who lost the Ryder Cup for Europe.
Whoa.
Yeah.
I've never heard that name. I didn't even that's not come across in any of these deep dives we've done.
We also have a Kenneth. Could you is another Englishman? Does it ring a bell to anyone?
It's not Kenneth Brown. It wouldn't be Ken Brown. No. Nope.
Kenneth Ferry is also at 3 under, as is Alistair Forsyth, Matthew Goggin, Martin Olander, and Carl Pedersen. Vijay Singh is also lurking there. But one of the big stories of the first day is that Ernie Els makes a hole-in-one on the postage stamp. And man, is it quite the lovely, this hits it like a little chippy 9-iron. Here's Ernie right after he's made his hole-in-one. He's absolutely just glowing. Everybody is like, man, this might be Ernie's Open. He's going to do it. Ernie turns around a few holes later and makes a double bogey when he blasts it right into the face of the bunker. So he's kind of like a little sour at the end of his round. He can't quite truly embrace making a hole in one. Ernie's one of the few people to make a hole in one in multiple Open Championships, having made one previously. Gene Sarazen actually made a hole in one on the postage stamp previously in 1965. Solly, Gary Evans makes an albatross too on the fourth hole. We'll not call it a double bogey, even though or double eagle. They know that's what they call it over there.
Why can't did this come across in any of your research? Why can't I think of who the defending champ is? I know L's won in 02 at Muirfield. I cannot think of who won 2003
That is
without.
because it is Ben Curtis.
That's right.
Not a name that you would remember.
That's
Ben
right.
Curtis
No,
having finished.
I should. He's from Columbus, Ohio. Like that was a huge deal back then.
Very disrespectful to
Yeah.
your fellow Ohioan.
I knew it was a no-namer, but yeah.
Yes, Ben Curtis misses the cut here, unfortunately, when asked if he could possibly defend his Open Championship. Narrator, he does not.
This is a weird time period, right? Because we have Mike Weir, Furyk, Ben Curtis, and Sean McKeel are the 03 major champions. I mean, Phil obviously is a big one. 04 was Retief. I guess 04 was starting to bounce back a little bit, but it's just a weird freaking time in the world of golf. A period where Tiger should have been dominating even more than he was, honestly.
Yes. Maybe Tiger should have just, stuck with his swing coach for a little longer. Like he could have, worked it out in like 2006 or whatever. But all right, so I put this in there as a little bit of travel monitoring for TC. Chris DeMarco reveals after his first round that he could not arrive into Troon until Wednesday afternoon. The reason that his Monday flight out of Philadelphia was canceled because someone stuffed a blanket in one of the airplane toilets and it sat on the tarmac for like 5 hours with them trying to figure out how to do it. They made everyone get off at like 4 a.m. when they finally couldn't figure it out. He got on his next flight the next day, which was then delayed for like 5 hours because the electricity wouldn't work. They didn't leave until 1 a.m. When he finally arrived in Glasgow, the airline didn't have his suitcase. They did have his clubs. So he went to go buy a shirt and put some rain pants out of his golf bag and rolled out and shot 71 in the first round.
How about that?
Pretty heroic effort from
DeMarco was a baller in this time period. Like from 02 to 06, he was a boss.
Truly was. I mean, a straight killer. Like I wish DeMarco had come out of this time period with one major because it felt like he was so good in so many of these majors that for him to just get blanked completely and be sort of a little bit of a forgotten man.
If I have it right, he's the only. I remember before I interviewed him, this I came across this. He's the only person to have ever finished solo second to Tiger Woods in majors twice.
Wow.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
Like as in he beat everybody in the world except for the best player ever.
All right, I'll give you $100 if you can tell me who the second round leader at the Open Championship would have been.
Gregory Havre.
Good guess. Skip Kendall. Skip Kendall has not won on the PGA Tour in 310 career starts, but he shoots an impressive 66 to lead at 7 under. Thomas LeVay is in second place, 6 under. KJ Choi, Barry Lane at 5. Michael Campbell, Ernie Els, and Todd Hamilton, the 58th ranked player in the world, appear on the leaderboard, as well as Colin Montgomery after a second straight 69. So we're in the mix here for Monty. Vijay Singh having truly one of the great years in golf history, hanging around here, although we won't ultimately factor in the result. Phil Mickelson, after shooting a first round 73, shoots a 66 in the second round. A lot of people, a little eyebrow raise there. Phil has never finished in top 10 in an Open Championship to this point in his career. When Skip Kendall comes into the interview room, there's a beautiful veneer table with a lot of signatures on it. And so he picks up a pen and he starts to sign the table. And so he says, no, that's just for Open champions. It's like signed by Jack Nicklaus and Gary Player and all the past Open championships. And he says, oh, well, hopefully I'll be signing my name there in a couple of days. Kendall reveals that he used to wait tables at the Olive Garden and to make ends meet while he was a struggling tour pro. On his lunch break, he would go outside in his Olive Garden uniform, which was black slacks, a black bow tie, and a white button down, and hit balls in the grassy field near the restaurant.
So, not even at a range, just in a field.
No, just in the it was just on his lunch break. So he couldn't go to the range, so he was just going to go pound some balls in a field, probably in march across the field in his loafers and get those balls and pick them back up. Monty shoots a 69. He's still kind of a little bit of He doesn't appreciate that the press is sort of like needling him a little bit, because that's the first question that comes up is, oh, you missed a 2-foot putt on 18 that would have, given you a 68. Are you disappointed? He's, forget that. There's never been a perfect round of played on links golf, and there never will be. I would have taken a 69 at the start of the day. Mickelson, of course, shoots 66, tying his best round ever at the British Open. He says, I'm not thinking about winning just yet. Tiger Woods is kind of, he's still finding his game, as we heard a little bit about Nick Price earlier. The drivers all over the map, but he's starting to kind of figure it out. This is the first major that he is playing with a graphite shaft in his driver. It was a steel shaft kind of up until this point. At least it was a new graphite shaft, I think. He gets super annoyed at a bunch of photographers who keep kind of, shadowing his every move, and he has to kind of back away from the ball like 2 or 3 times in the second round. And finally, like, he's standing off to the side, and photographers are taking a bunch of pictures of him while his playing partner Lee Westwood is hitting. And he says, "Come on, guys!" And he just kind of snarls at these photographers. He's swinging. Have some respect. Finally, the marshals are getting really on edge because they can see that Tiger's pissed. And when they're playing on the 10th hole, the train goes by. And the marshals are so on edge that the marshals spin around and say, "Quiet, please," to the train, which gives Tiger a good laugh.
That's like the guy in the 16th hole at Chambers Bay that was like, motioning for the train to be quiet as it was going by. I remember that.
Yep. Soly, and this wouldn't be a deep dive if we didn't have a Jack Nicklaus anecdote. Nicklaus just shows up at Troon on Friday to watch some golf. He said he had no desire to tee it up this year, but he admitted that he probably would be back next year when he turns 65, because the Open's at St. Andrews, and they actually moved the date up a year so that Nicklaus could have his old course send-off. He says, the R&A accommodated me just by adjusting the year, so it'll be a slap in the face if I didn't play. If I'm able, I'll be back.
They moved the Open up a year to move it to 05?
More on that later.
Whoa, I never knew that.
Round 3, Todd Hamilton enters the conversation with a second straight 67. Hamilton, surges into the lead. He's 1 stroke ahead of Ernie Els, who shoots 68. Retief Goosen is lurking, Thomas LeVay, and Phil Mickelson follows it up with another 68, so he's only 2 shots back. Barry Lane, Scott Verplank, and Tiger hanging around there at 4. Monty, pretty disappointing 72. We'll hear about that in a second. He's kind of played himself out of it. He's now 5 shots back. But they bring Hamilton into the media room, and he says, it's a little strange to be up here talking about my golf game. I've played so bad for so long. Usually when I'm talking about my golf, it's to my wife and kids, and it's in an angry tone. Hamilton has played on the Asian Tour and the Japanese Tour for a decade before making it on the PGA Tour in his 8th attempt. So he's kind of actually technically a PGA Tour rookie, but he says he doesn't feel like one because he's been kind of all around the world playing all kinds of golf forever. He says, to be honest, I never even considered contending in majors or even playing in that many of them. My whole goal was just to get to the PGA Tour. He keeps using his Sonartec Hybrid, which has the loft of a 3-wood. It's been bent down to from 17 to 14 to get up and down from around the greens. He'll take it from pretty much anywhere. He's just kind of like playing the little Big Randy bump and run. On the week, Soly, he will end up being 14 of 15 using it to get up and down for pars.
Seriously?
Yes. He had never done this technique prior to this week. He'd never tried it. He just decided, this would be a good way to kind of like chip and bump things around. Hybrids weren't really a thing back then. There was only 4% of tour pros were using them. In fact, Hamilton wasn't even supposed to be using this Sonartec Hybrid because he was under contract with TaylorMade to play their 3-wood and hybrid. So he just happened to have a buddy who made this club for him.
They're probably guys, what are the chances this comes back to bite us? What are the chances Todd Hamilton's going to, be on television a lot this week? Maybe we'll just let him have it this 1 week. Oops.
Mm-hmm. The press kind of asked him, what's it like playing on the Asian Tour? And he says it required a ton of patience. He told a story where in Korea, he had a 1-shot lead going into the final hole of the tournament, but he hit a shot into the bunker. His playing partner, a Korean golfer that he would not name, hit his shot into the deep rough. But by the time that guy got to his ball, he had a clean lie and was able to hit it onto the green. TC Chen, who was observing the final pairing, was so pissed off about what happened, he got up in the golfer's face and threatened to blackball him from future Asian Tour events unless he returned to his ball to the original position. Cool. So shout out TC Chen for being an honorable member of
that's the TC way.
That is the TC way. Hamilton said, you hear a lot of stories about guys playing like that over there. they'd make their wife or their girlfriend act as a caddy, and they'd tell them to stand down where about drivers would land and make sure nothing happens. So I actually looked it up, and Hamilton was in a playoff twice in 1992 in tournaments where he played in South Korea, and he was playing against a guy named Che Hasang Lin, who does not have a Wikipedia page. I don't know what happened to him, whether he had a successful career or not.
I got blackballed.
But yeah, barely back. It had to be this dude because he beat him in a playoff once. He lost to him in a playoff once, but this was apparently like the dude who was, vying for Todd Hamilton's crown in these Asian Tour events. Despite having a lot of crowd support throughout the week, Monty is still in a very pissy mood after his third round. He bogeys the last hole to shoot 72, essentially ending his chances for a claret jug. Asked about the strain of being a professional golfer in the press conference afterwards, I doubt it was a press conference, probably just a scrum with reporters, Monty said, "Anyone who says this is fun is joking and they're having a laugh. This is not fun and it is not enjoyment. It is a job and a horrible one."
A horrible job.
The San Francisco Gate, I'm not a paper, I think maybe it's the defunct paper now, says Monty was besieged by personal problems and his slide in the world rankings, and this Miss Doubtfire lookalike showed he still had some game and gave the locals a thrill before he faded down the leaderboard throughout the weekend. Just like openly calling the dude like a Miss Doubtfire lookalike.
Jeez.
Soly Skip Kendall is probably not going to end up signing that table after a third round 75.
It's unlucky.
Peter Dawson has to issue a statement the following day, calling it a fortunate coincidence that the old course was moved up a year in the rotation, and they did not do it to accommodate Jack Nicklaus.
When did they decide this? It couldn't have been right at this point.
No, I think it was like, in the lead up to this, like Nicklaus is not playing. He maybe just, 65 is when it's your last year of eligibility. I think the Open Championship was probably set for 2006. They bump it up a year. Jack either is told that this is for him or decides that it is for him. And Peter Dawson has to clarify and say, no, it is just a fortunate coincidence. Barbara,
which I always
fortunate coincidence.
They wanted to do every 5 years. Like that was the whole thing about it. But that's why I'm surprised there was that in 2000. Huh. That's interesting. I never knew that.
Tiger is paired with Adam Scott during his third round 68. And he beats Adam by 6 shots, much to the delight of seemingly everyone who wants Tiger to be able to stick it to Butch Harmon. Butch Harmon, you see, still coaches Adam Scott. And Tiger and Butch split earlier in the year. Asked if he had any extra incentive to beat up on Scott, Tiger shook his head and said, no. As I said, Fred Funk misses the cut of the BC Open, which word trickles here and is mocked openly. Going into the final round, we have Todd Hamilton at 8 under, Ernie Els at 7, Mickelson, Retief, and Thomas LeVay at 6, Tiger at -4. A wild sequence kicks off the final round early. Mike Weir sort of starts the day in 10th place, chips in at the 5th. Tiger also chips in from the same bunker at the 5th. Then LeVay chips in for eagle on the 4th. And then Mickelson chips in for eagle on the 4th. This is all in the span of about 20 minutes. So you can imagine if a Twitter existed, all the sort of bang, bang, bang things that would happen across it. Mickelson, when he chips in on the 4th, he's at 8 under, which means he's tied for the lead, especially after Hamilton bogeys the second hole. Now Mickelson and LeVay lead at 8 under par. At the third hole, Ernie Els hits it way wipey right off a TV compound fence. The ball ricochets hard right and gives him a clear shot. He hits it left. Ricochets hard right, kind of where he has a clean shot in the green, and he makes a birdie to get to 8 under. Wow. Ernie's going to get some interesting breaks today to sort of throughout things. Hamilton birdies the third, get back to 8. This is a really kind of fun bang-bang final round that I did not remember it going quite like this. I know I watched this as a younger lad, but I did not remember quite the excitement. Now Hamilton birdies the 5th, leads alone at 9 under par. Mickelson, wearing pants that looks like he might float away and do an MC Hammer video after this is over, birdies the 7th hole, and now he is again tied for the lead at 9 under. On the 10th, Ernie Els drives it way right, and he has a stance that looks like the ball is like a good, I want to say, 3 or 4 feet above where he is. He's got a stance that's pretty miserable. Like he's got to hit it like you're basically swinging a bat on a tee, and he manages to kind of dink it a little bit up, doesn't make a good swing, muscles it in the deep rough, makes a double bogey. Like feels like, okay, this is crushing. Like Els is done. Basically, he's not gonna. Hamilton then bogeys the 10th as Ernie's making double, and Mickelson is now the solo leader.
Man,
I
I
did
do
not
not
realize that
remember
Phil
this.
was truly like had a not just a chance, but like very much could have won this Open Championship.
I remember this being a weird Wikipedia finish for Phil in terms of like, even as of what, like 2008, 2009, 2010, it was like the super rare good Open Championship he had. But I just remember being like, what the hell happened? I didn't realize it was
Yep.
04, but they had one good Open in the course of like 15 years.
So this is Els' stance when he
Oh,
made a
God.
double here. So you could see like how not going his way, the ball barely moves into that long grass and he ends up not doing it. So guess what happens on the 11th? Els again drives just a really shit drive, and it ends up somehow fucking worse than the previous one that he had sort of standing, on a tee. It ends up in a gorse bush, and it's sitting up like a freaking tee. Like there's absolutely no way that he should play this ball. Like he could easily whiff right underneath this. I mean, this is basically like having to swing a cricket bat, at a ball. I mean, this is absurd. But he somehow like bunts it into like the long grass. You can see whatever there, ropes a 7-iron onto the green and makes the putt. He
Jesus.
makes a par there somehow to basically stay alive, which is, Hamilton says later, like, there's no way Hamilton makes birdie on this hole. And he later says on a podcast, his par was so much better than my birdie. Like you have no idea how impossible it would be to hit it out of that gorse bush and to then get up and down and make par. So Hamilton birdies 11. He's now tied at 9 under with Phil. At this point, Ernie is 2 shots back at 7. Seems like, man, like might not be Ernie's time. Maybe Phil's going to be the guy to sort of slay. The announcers are talking like Phil seems like, he's the favorite at this point. But Els is not dead yet. He birdies 13 to get to 8 under. But then right back in, Hamilton chips in on 14 to take the lead back from Phil at 10 under par.
With a hybrid?
He does not chip in
Okay.
with a hybrid at this point. He chips in with a 9-iron, makes a really good chip. Ernie's kind of like shaking his head, like, man, what can I do? Like, this guy is just like, I'm playing unbelievable today. Mickelson bogeys 13, kind of a tough thing, falls out of, Hamilton took the lead at 10 under, but Phil was at 9, falls back to 8. Phil will eventually birdie 16 to get to 9, end up being the clubhouse leader, but it's just really not going to be enough at this point. We're sort of running out of holes. Phil doesn't have a really great chance at birdie on 17 or 18. It's going to finish shot back, but what an exceptional tournament for Phil. So now Els and Hamilton have to match with birdies at 16. Els hits an unbelievable like 3-wood onto the green. Of course, Todd hits like a 2-iron, 5-iron, 9-iron, rolls in a 25-footer. Ernie has like a 3-footer. So Hamilton's at 11 and Ernie's at 9 with 2 holes to play. Ernie hits like an awesome, it's the 17th is playing like 225, wind off the left, hits an absolutely like just unbelievably good 4-iron to about 15 feet, rolls in the putt. It is like so exceptionally like cool to see how smoothly Ernie putted in this era. Like you see how like scar tissue builds up over time, but man, that dude just like putted like a dream so much of the time, although not quite on 18 here as we're about to come up. On 18, so Ernie's still shot back. Hamilton hits an iron off the tee, like a 5-iron, ends up kind of in the long ass grass on the right.
Really?
Ernie hits like this towering 2-iron, like splits the fairway, the most majestic fucking shot you can imagine. All Hamilton can do is basically take like a wild swing. It goes all the way across the fairway and like goes up against one of those temporary metal fences that they have to like separate the grandstands from the thing. So gets a free drop from there because of the immovable fence, is able to sort of squirt it up around the green. Eventually he's going to make bogey. All right. So suddenly Els hits a great shot into 18. He has a putt outright to win the Open Championship. He makes this putt and we're going, Ernie's just walking off. I believe this is his shot here into 18.
Wow.
But yeah.
12 feet, maybe?
Yeah. So this putt is like, it's way harder than it looks on television. And you can tell that immediately from as soon as he putts it, because it breaks so freaking hard across the hole. I mean, he is one of these putts where you have to match up line and speed perfectly. And he does not hit a good putt at all. I mean, it ends up way short, taps in. Okay, bummer. I had a chance to win the Open Championship, but going to the playoff, Ernie's still obviously got to be, the favorite, right? Like he's the dude. He's the one who's meant to win these championships. Hits a great shot into they go back and they play.
It's 3
I
hole
believe
aggregate. 4 hole.
yes,
4
1
hole.
and 2, 4 hole aggregate, 1 and 2, 17 and 18 are the 4 holes. So Ernie hits a great shot into one, just barely misses a makeable birdie putt. Hamilton makes par. They both par the third. On the third playoff hole, Hamilton hits a kind of a skanky 5-iron onto the front of the green. Easy 2 putt, but Ernie wipes it way left, like into the sort of long grass. Chips out, can't make his putt, bogey. All of a sudden, we're going into 18, and Todd Hamilton has a 1-stroke lead again. It's like, holy fuck. Again, same thing plays out. Like sad, squirty 5-iron for Hamilton, majestic 2-iron. Hamilton later says, I think he was probably in his like a foot away from his divot in regulation. Els hits another great drive on his approach. But before that happens, Hamilton has to kind of make a decision, right? There's bunkers short of the green. There's out of bounds over the green. So if he tries to carry these bunkers and hits firm, it could go all the way through and basically could lose the Open Championship of this one swing. So he takes a 5-iron and he decides, all right, I'm going to try to carry the bunker, but I want it to land like short of the green. So if it's short of the green, like, I'm totally fine. I just can't be in those bunkers. Hits a 5, feels pretty good about it. But here's like this, crowd just completely groans. And he's like, oh my God, I'm in that bunker. Now I have to like get up and down from 40 yards off the green to win the Open Championship. I'm totally screwed. Walks up there. He's not in the bunker. The ball hit like right on the upslope next to the bunker and kind of popped right up and then just sort of rolled a little bit over the edge of the thing. So now he's got like a long, basically like a, I want to say, I think it's like 90 feet with this freaking club. He's going to pull out. All right. And he's going to try to get this up and down from right here. So
Oh my
this is how
God.
far this is. I mean, when you look at it like this, you're like, how is this possible that this guy would be? I mean, obviously he did it all week, so he's going to rely on this. But this is if he doesn't get up and down here, very good chance he's not going to win the Open Championship. Hits it to like 2 feet. I mean, it is like such a pure roll. He's talking on, I think it's For the Good of the Game podcast many years later, and even as he's talking about it, he gets so choked up that he can barely even talk. This is where he hit it to. There's like 15 seconds of silence because he's so completely overwhelmed by the emotion of what he did. And he basically says, Ernie has the putt, then to sort of, he, again, misses it. It's watching Ernie, like Ernie had a great chance and he just misses it by like, this is the final putt. I mean, it's just misses low. It's darting. So it never really has a chance to go in because its speed is not lined up right. But that's the difference right there between Ernie maybe having 3 Open Championships and just having 2 or having 5 majors. And it's crushing. And Hamilton even says, as he's sort of talking afterwards, that he felt really bad for Ernie because he was like, you know what? Ernie was meant to win these things. I wasn't meant to win these things. He's so good at golf and I'm just me. And so he was like, but you know what? Like, that's golf. Like, sometimes, like, you have a guy who just completely, plays a great thing. It's his Hamilton's wife, after he won, got BOC license plates printed up, British Open Championship, but he didn't really feel comfortable with them. He didn't ever really feel like he was like that good. And he just was like, he says in his speech, Ernie, I know you're going to win another one of these things. And he said it made him so happy when Ernie did win one 2 years later when Adam Scott collapsed, because he felt like almost like the universe had restored balance, right? Because Ernie was supposed to, 8 years later, excuse me. He said 2 years later on the podcast, which confused me, but so it just felt like, man, like honestly, what a very classy thing for him to say. Like, Ernie should have won that, man. Like, I'm just Todd Hamilton. Like, I'm not Ernie Els. So a surprisingly very fun watch.
You do a great job with these because you make every time we do these, I want to go back and watch it. Like, well, shit, man, I need to go watch that drama. Like, that's kind of what you live for golf is the back nine major championship back and forth like that. I remember watching it. I remember being so confused that Todd Hamilton won. I just remember like, no, exactly that. Like, no, Ernie's supposed to win this. Like, everyone was probably rooting for Ernie at the time of like, we don't want this no name guy to win, and here he goes.
One note from Sports Illustrated that I thought you might appreciate. Nick Faldo showed great promise during his TV debut by offering a nice mix of insight, history, humor, and just plain wackiness. So it'll be a good 19 years before Nick is no longer in the booth. Yeah. So that's 2004.
Jeez, man, honestly, I would have thought that would have been a dull one, but like we had more laugh out loud moments at yours than we did definitely in 2016. But God, so
Barbara, they moved the Open Championship for me.
I have to go.
I'd
sounds like
a slap in the face if I didn't go.
That sounds like the excuse I use to get a golf trip. Like, honey, they moved the dates because of me. Like, I can't skip. Right? It's one I got to do.
They're celebrating the band's 25th anniversary on this date just because I can be there.
I got to do it. So. All right, well, that's it for these two. We again have the 1997 up next. If you already listened to the 1997 major recaps, you have heard it. Otherwise, Kevin, enjoy the Open Championship coming up here very shortly. Thank you very much, and thank you everyone for tuning in, and cheers. I'm going to spoil this part for you. 1997 Open Championship, not as exciting as the 97 Masters. All right, so I have less content on this one. Maybe the most exciting thing was Tiger, of course, getting off the plane, rocking this look with a white sport coat and those circular glasses that he wore back in the day. We are going to Royal Troon Golf Club in Western Scotland, where again on the Monty theme, his father is the club secretary at Troon. So prize fund $2.6 million, 418,000 to the winner, 7,079 yards, essentially the same length that it was at the 1962 Open Championship. Tiger opens up the week by dumping on the U.S. fans by saying the Scottish fans don't just cheer for shots that get airborne. And he says when he tells them he doesn't have time for autographs, they respect it. So you can already see in just a few months, Tiger getting pretty worn out by a lot of the attention that has come with this. So Earl Woods would make some comments on Colin Montgomery going into this, saying he allows himself to be psyched out by letting problems get inside his head. There are two steps I would suggest. First, he must admit he has a problem. Then he needs a sports psychologist who can teach him techniques to block out the crowd. I was going to say that's pretty spot on, dude. I mean, I don't. It's funny to think about somebody's dad saying that about another competitor, but yeah, that is pretty spot on. But story heading into round one is, of course, Tiger Woods. He steps up and ends up driving the first green. So this whole week, the front nine plays downwind. That's a kind of a common theme. A lot of guys step up on this opening hole and give it a lash. So he opens up on that Thursday, driving the first green. Tries to drive the first green, ends up in two different bunkers, but actually ends up saving par to start it. Cat's got a pretty solid fit going here. White top with the the long sleeves underneath, but blue pants, a little baggy, white shoes, and the blue hat. But
is that Calc I spy being the tandem in the background?
I do not think that is Calc.
No, that must be. It looks like
Elkington.
It looks like it must be Elkington.
Steve Elkington and Bernard Longer is who he is playing with. So there's a lot of shots of the cat, in precarious spots and bunkers. A takeaway I had was how far of a cry like this shot is from what we would see at the old course just a few years later. That he famously missed every bunker, but yeah, there's a bunch of just the links golf stuff. So you're gonna again like coming off this, having read the 97 book about how much he learned about Augusta, it looks like there's still a lot of links golf stuff that Tiger still has to learn, but he has great appreciation for it. Mm-hmm. One of the things I would say is he needed to get much tighter fitting clothing because he looks like a hot air balloon in a lot of these shots where the wind is just absolutely whipping.
Michelin man is going to be carried away. He looks like one of those superhero costumes that people wear for Halloween, where it's like the fake muscles, like the Mr. Incredible costume, or the Hans and Franz things from Saturday Night Live.
It's not a great fit, but again, like most of the focus on this round one is on Tiger. He makes a triple on the railway hole, which is the 11th hole, but finished with a 1-over round of 72. The hometown boy, our guy Monty, did not have a great day. The first clip we see of him is hitting a wayward iron off the tee of a par 4, and you're not going to believe this, but he was upset about something that happened in the crowd directly behind him almost immediately after the shot.
You hooligans, calm down back there. Just absolutely
Is that
disgusting.
Tony? I've known you since grade school.
You know my father will get you kicked off the course in 1 minute. He's the club secretary. How dare you?
Mark Calcavecchia, who won here in 1989, shoots a 74, and there's no way I could do justice to what happens here, but this is a vicious overhand club throw, putter throw that he makes at his bag. It's pretty impressive. Tommy Tolles on this day drives the first green with the first group still on the green. The image that you're seeing here is somebody lining up a putt as the ball goes racing. This is where it finished in relation to the hole, about 6 feet past the hole. It almost aced the hole, and there was not even a pin in on the green. Darren Clarke looking quite young and dapper, if I may say, and he becomes a part of the storyline coming in. Jim Furyk, as he is referred to during the entire Open Championship film, is getting involved in the proceedings, and both he and Darren Clarke would shoot 4 under par in their opening rounds on this Thursday. Fred Couples, Justin Leonard, and Greg Norman are at -2. And then we have Cabrera, Barkley Howard, who's an amateur, Davis Love, Andrew McGee, and Jesper Parnevik all at -1 on this Thursday. Do you know, without looking, who wins this 97 Open?
Only because he's a factor in the following major.
Okay.
So I would not have remembered without like giving it serious thought. I remember when he won, but mostly what I probably remember was like, oh, an American who wasn't Tiger. Like,
yeah. Well, I'm not going to spoil it just yet in case people that are driving don't know. But Rick Riley would say about this Thursday, he said, as it was when they had finally counted heads to make sure nobody was pinned to a pork pie cart somewhere, 2 wind players were leading with 67s. Northern Ireland's Darren Clarke, whose game was molded in one of the windiest places on earth, Royal Portrush, outside of Belfast. And Jim Furyk, whose swing is so awful, the wind improves it.
Oh, wow. Got a lot of jokes about Furyk's swing in this era, too. Like, just people not quite ready to accept that the Jim was going to stick around and be, who he was for 15 years.
If you remember from our, I believe, 91 deep dive into the Open champion Ian Baker Finch, this would be the now famous scene of him shooting a 92 in this round and withdrawing. Again, this is from Rick Riley's separate article that kind of dives into his whole kind of collapse. This is about Ian Baker Finch. He said he played a few practice rounds at Troon with his buddies and he was right around par, but now he was unsure about entering because his back had flared up in Ireland. Another Australian player, Peter Sr., barked, "Don't be so bloody stupid, Finchy. I know how hard you've been working. Just go out and do it. Suck it up. Try your hardest. Golf is like sex." That's end quote. "Golf is like sex. Trying your hardest is the worst thing you can do." Yet Baker Finch thought, he's right. I can't just give up. He played. He said, worst decision I ever made in my life. Hit the first fairway and made par, but he doubled the second with a bad chip, doubled the sixth with a hook drive, doubled the postage stamp 8th out of the left bunker, bogeyed the first 3 holes in the back, doubled the 13th with the hook drive. Hole by hole, whatever milliliters of confidence he'd built up over 6 months leaked out of his spikes. Walking with him, his friend Gary Edwin, a golf coach, prayed that Baker Finch would pull out of the tournament with a suddenly bulging disc or an instantly sprained thumb. He said, I thought about it, but it didn't seem right. A Baker Finch to the end. He tripled the 16th hole by hitting his drive out of bounds right, then his second one off the map left. He doubled the par 3 17th. He needed to eagle the 452-yard par 4 18th to keep his score under 90. Sure. He said, that was the absolute worst feeling I've ever known. Walking up the 18th at the British Open, about to shoot 92. That made the shot at St. Andrews feel like chicken feed, which you remember 2 years prior at the old course. He hooked one out of bounds at the widest hole in golf on the first tee and had to re-tee. By then, his nerves were afraid not. Fans and reporters lined the fairway to see for themselves if it was true that a British Open champion was coming in with a 20 handicapper score. Lying to and faced with a simple 60-yard chip to the hole, he finally surrendered to the fear. He took out an 8-iron and dribbled the ball onto the putting green, not trusting himself to put another ball in the air, lest he skull, shank, snap, or slice it into yet another parking lot, membership lounge, or woman's handbag. It was the equivalent of taking off your skis and walking down the jump ramp. The blood drained from his face, the light from his eyes. He signed a scorecard, limply shook a few hands, and took his wife and Edwin into the one room where nobody else would be, the champions room, reserved for men who have won the British Open. In the 137 years of the event, no champion had ever entered it like that. He ignored the plush chairs and couches and collapsed on the floor with Jenny and a ball crying next to him and Edwin staring blankly ahead, numb. They stayed like that for 45 minutes, hiding from the press and fans who were looking in through the windows, hoping to catch a glimpse of the touring pro from the country club of hell.
Wow. What a paragraph.
Not done. Then Baker French got up and did what nobody but he would do. He went to the press room, swallowed hard, and answered questions. He said, "I can't get any lower than this." It was so humiliating that some writers couldn't bring themselves to scribble the words in their notepads. That night, bellhop after bellhop filled Baker Finch's room with flowers, champagne, and beer from players, but it was useless. The next day, the scoreboard read WD next to Baker Finch's name. You can't, however, withdraw from a 92 in front of the world. Baker Finch flew back to Australia knowing there was only one thing he could do: work harder. So,
yowza.
Yeah, it's incredible writing, incredible kind of, I know we relived that part, but again, reading it again was just shocking to get to that moment.
One of my all-time favorite golf stories, like as a seminal moment in like Kevin Van Valkenburg's journey of like being a writer, was like, and the understanding of like reading about failure is often more compelling than reading about victory. That was one of the lessons that story taught me very early on. And Riley was a big influence in that.
We say it on every one of these. Rick Riley, complete menace in this time period, just a total tour de force. And it really is. I couldn't wait to read each one of his columns. Tiger hits the eject button on the 10th hole on Friday, makes an absolute mess. He was playing super quick. Like, I've never seen Tiger do this, like playing super quickly out of like gorse and stuff like that. Just hacking it around the green, makes a quad. It almost looks like he's giving up. Then he would walk in a birdie on the 18th hole to make the cut and does the signature putter raise. Just I don't know why I like this image of this weird collared shirt that he's got with the Nike on the emblem and the corners kind of fanning up a little bit. But just a look that didn't last forever on Tiger.
Those striped shirts that he wore in this era were very strange. Like the weird colors, like the greens. He really never, like, even the fluorescent colors that he chose later in life seemed to fit him better than the weird like pea soup greens.
Darren Clark shoots 66, leads at -9. Justin Leonard at -7. Jesper is at -6. And among the special guests at the Open this year, His Royal Highness, the Duke of York, Prince Andrew, is in attendance and featured in the highlight video, which was
oh dear,
probably not going to make a current version of that if that was to be redone. But Tiger.
I was going to say, Tron did reference Epstein's plane the other day on the trap draw. So, I mean, it's very possible that, all things lead back to Prince Andrew and Epstein.
And as always, all things lead back to the trap draw. Saturday, Tiger has himself a day. He goes out in 32. When he gets to 16, he's 290 yards away. And the announcers are like, well, yeah, he's waiting for the green, but he can't get there today. Hits this just massive banana cut. Hits it pin high, 20 feet left of the hole. He makes the putt, chips in for birdie. Then on 17, needs a par at the last to tie the course record of 64, and he makes the 10-footer to do it. So Saturday, 64, yeah. Fred Couples coming up the 11th hole, the railway hole, a hole that was playing really, really difficult. Holes out from the fairway. He's got our guy Joe LaCava, of course, by his side. And what do you know? What do you think the next thing that is that Couples does as he's walking up this 11th hole?
Does he take his hat off and wave it?
He takes his hat off and waves it to the crowd.
Hey, our guys deserve to celebrate too.
He is sticking with his guy, Patrick Cantlay. Hats off on that shot. In the meantime, Jesper Parnevik has just continued to absolutely ball out.
Speaking of hats,
he's obviously famous at this time for his famous flipped up cap. But can we just take a second to acknowledge the fact that he's got the underside of his bill sponsored? Like that is genius, next level stuff.
The activations used to be smarter then, no one's thinking about activating the bottom of your bill these days. Come on. It's unused real estate.
I don't know about you. Jesper Parnevik was weirdly influential on my junior golf career. Like
Yeah.
watching him mash, and like I was always jealous of the size of the divots he took, obviously, as a big turf guy. But watching how close he would stand to the ball and how pure he was with his irons, like made me that was one of the swing feels I would try maybe on Monday. It would be a different swing feel I would try on Tuesday. But I always loved watching Jesper Parnevik hit the ball.
My buddy's golf team, we originally, when we like 20 years ago, when we formed like 2 golf teams for a Ryder Cup team, one of us was Team Tiger and one was Team Phil, and my team was Team Tiger. And when the scandal sort of broke, we decided to rename our team Team Jesper. And there's some regret now that we didn't just stick with Tiger, but we've been Team Jesper for like 15 years now or whatever. So he's played I have like several ball markers in my possession that say Team Jesper on it. So he's lived on in my personal
Right.
golfing life forever. So.
Darren Clark gets it all the way to -12, but he made a bunch of bogeys coming in. He falls back to -9, and Jesper Parnevik is the 54-hole leader at 11 under. Again, Clark at -9, 2 shots back. Fred Couples and Justin Leonard are at -6, 5 shots back. There's a great shot at the end of this of Tiger. He is the last one left on the range. Does a little messing around, puts on a little show for the fans, and is doing his little club bounce thing on there. And
Look at those
gotta
pants,
say,
Soly. Look at those pants. You cannot. Those pants are so high and they're so
that's
straight.
enough fabric for 2 pairs of pants.
Oh my
Like,
God.
they're massive.
You could hide an NFL lineman's thighs in those pants. It's just insane. Anyway,
This is
yes.
obviously before the commercial he shoots, where he does the bouncing on the club and the full swing, because he takes a full cut at it and whiffs the ball, unfortunately, and then he ends up hitting. He does it again and hits one, but not nearly as pure as he does in the commercial. From Riley, as we get into this final round, he wrote, Parnevik is famous in so many ways, but mostly as the guy who forgot to look at scoreboards in the 1994 British Open at Turnberry and lost to Nick Price by a shot. Monty would say on that Saturday night, I think Jesper's going to win. It seems like you must lose one of these before you win one. We did not cover 94. I don't remember this, but I watched the highlight back of this. He chases the pin at Turnberry in 1994, thinking he needs birdie to tie. He only needed par to tie, and if he hit it 15 feet right, he'd have a putt to win, and 2 putt to tie. Short sides himself and does not get up and down and misses out on a playoff at 1994 to Nick Price. But some coverage takes that are published on the Sunday morning. The BBC defended their decision to show only brief extracts of Tiger's course record equaling round. Their coverage did not start until 12:30 p.m., and they had to show racing from Newbury due to a contract.
You don't know how contracts work.
Yes, exactly. Just very pleased to see
Not
that.
a charity.
Sunday, Tiger makes a couple early birdies, but he triples the postage stamp after dumping it into the right bunker. Riley would say, the U.S. Open is where Tiger learned you can't make a big number. Earl Woods told Tiger's agent Hughes Norton last week. And Troon is where Tiger learned you can't make 3 big numbers. He had 3 terrible holes that cost him 10 total shots. If he made 3 pars on those, he would have finished second place. Just as in the U.S. Open in June, he made more birdies and fewer bogeys than the winner. Maybe the hero is the hero because he goes for hero pars, but a few bogeys out of this kid instead of 8s, and we might have had something. Tiger would say afterwards that people said things they shouldn't have out there, so he has lost the respect for the Scottish fans, and
you just don't do that over here.
Just don't do that. He refused to reveal exactly what spectators had shouted, but he was clearly upset about it. So in this final round, it's Clark and Parnevik in the final group, and Leonard and Couples in the penultimate group. There's a montage that plays that relives Parnevik's fatal mistake in the 18th hole at Turnberry in 1994 when he went pin hunting. The hollow there would be known as Jesper's grave. I did not know that about the hollow short left of 94. We need to get back to naming locations around things like that.
Yeah.
Darren Clark goes out and birdies the first hole, then steps up and cold shanks one with an iron onto the beach and out of bounds on the second hole and makes double. Then goes and clangs one off the hole with his approach into the third hole. Then Parnevik steps up and hits the stick. So this image you're looking at here is there 2 shots into the third hole. Clark yips the putt, unfortunately, but Parnevik steps up and makes his birdie. Leonard makes 5 birdies and a bogey in his first 7 holes to get it to 10 under par. Again, they're going downwind out to start here. Then it starts to get a little nervy for Jesper Parnevik here. He plays the par 5 6th hole, which is called, guess what? Turnberry.
Oh, how unfair to him.
He tries to putt it from like 40 yards, ends up making bogey, and his lead is down to 1 over Leonard. Clark pours in a birdie to get back within 2 after a really difficult start to his round, but he is back in the hunt. Skipping ahead a little bit, Parnevik birdies the 11th hole to stretch out to a 2-shot lead, but things really start to go poorly. He makes a bogey on the 13th hole, and the lead is 1. Now, going back to Justin Leonard, who's in the group ahead, not like preeminent, I would love to see the strokes gain data from this round because doesn't hit it great, seems to be having problems from everywhere, and makes just 15-footer after 15-footer after 15-footer. Like, it's making so many freaking par putts. And then he gets to the 16th hole. Again, this is after making so many putts in a row, not 8-footers, like bomb putts in a row. Has this putt on the 16th hole from 20 feet for birdie for the tie. Absolutely drains it. But Parnevik is on the and still has the par 5 16th to play. As you skip ahead, Leonard is up on the 17th hole, putting from 35 feet for birdie and drains it. But Parnevik has a 5-footer for birdie on 16 and yips it. He misses the short 5-footer. And Leonard is leading alone at -12 after 17. Again, Parnevik's putt to tie the lead, not a long one. It's just not a lengthy putt. And it misses on the low on the right side. It's not a very pretty stroke. Leonard gets up.
Weird center shafted putter I'm looking at here.
Yeah, it's got a weird, like, kind of bar behind it too. I wish I would have got a better shot of that one. But Leonard steps up on 18, hits a fairway wood down the left side. Parnevik gets to 17 and chunks it. I mean, it was awful. Like, goes way short and left into the crowd. Leonard hits a long iron into 18, hits it right in the middle of the green. He makes kind of the walk. It's starting to look pretty much like it's Leonard's to lose at this point. He 2-putts par, and Parnevik bogey 17. The lead is 2. It's over. Leonard shot final round 65. They cut to Parnevik's wife and 2 kids and a nanny on the 18th green.
Oh, a nanny!
Wait. I triple, quadruple take here. I don't think this is Elin.
I don't think it's her either.
I think they didn't meet until like 2000 or a couple years later when Tiger when she gets hired on.
Because she's younger than Tiger anyway, and so that's no way that she would have been 16 or something at this point.
All this to say, Jesper's family has a type when it comes to nannies, because that is an attractive younger 20s blonde. I can only assume is Swedish that looks a heck of a lot like Elin. But
you know what though, I will say that didn't Elin's sister nanny for the Parneviks, and that was how they met. I know Elin's sister was also a model who did some nannying, so outside chance that's Elin's sister. I don't know. It would be more age appropriate, I would think.
We have Josephine Nordegren. That is almost certainly her. Now that I've done this Google
Boom! Look at us. NLU investigates.
Incredible.
What a pull.
Yeah, that has to be her. That really has to be her. Well, anyways, great find there. Who would have thought when they were making this film together in 1997 that this shot would be studied like the Zapruder film? But again, kind of talking about the failure and what that kind of registered here. I feel like if I have a memory of watching this, it's kind of sears in this grief era of golf of like, dude, like somebody blew almost every one of these, and like they just zoom in on Jesper Parnevik's face on repeat, and there's this incredible shot that shows Darren Clark and Justin Leonard like kind of hamming it up before they're getting ready to go accept the trophies, and the runner-ups have to accept their silver medals. And I mean, Clark is in a great mood, and Parnevik just looks like he's on a different planet. It's really tough, but Leonard ends up winning it by 3, despite being 5 shots down going into the final round. Rick Riley would say, you say this is the Tiger Woods era, and you're probably right, but Woods may have a stubborn Texas Chihuahua clamped onto his tail, and Leonard, who has won 2 PGA Tour events and a major in the last 11 months. If you add 27-year-old Ernie Els to 21-year-old Woods and Leonard, you might have a big 3 starter kit. For the first time in history, 3 men less than 30 years old have won the first 3 majors of the year. I found that interesting. I didn't realize that was the first youth movement.
A lot of big 3s. Everybody always wanted another big 3, but as Gary would say, there's only one big 3. Soly.
I don't remember what happens after this, but I don't think Justin Leonard is in a big 3 for very long. I'd have to check the tape on that one, but he had a very nice career. Listen, I'm not making fun, but a pretty outrageous claim by Riley there. But For more from Riley, for Leonard, there was nothing to do but admire his name inscribed on the trophy not 5 minutes into his reign as British Open champion. He says, wow, pretty fast work. Does he have a dry cleaners in Dallas? And then a tiger striped female, then the tiger striped female streaker on the 18th green. He said, I got to see this. He said, as he bolted from a ring of riders, and he says, relax, he's single. Couldn't find any images of the tiger striped female streaker on the 18th green. But.
Oh, bummer. How dare they erase the tiger striped female stripper or streaker to history for us? This is an important part of history's documentation. We should be able to have that at our fingertips.
Other writing, Art Spander noted that Justin Leonard now has as many major titles as Tiger and one more than Phil. Which that would change in the coming years. But don't have a whole lot of other funny little stuff other than this was David Begg's final year operating the press tent at the Open. A bunch of players, in the video say a whole bunch of nice things about him. Nick Price says it's great to have known him for 15 to 16 years, says, we'll miss him. Jack, in his tribute to him, makes it all about himself and says, David, he's been through the whole gamut with me. He's seen me go from a young man to an old man. It's like, what a great tribute to David there. Get this, you're not going to believe this next part, though, but Nicklaus is not sure if he'll return to play in the British Open next year at Royal Birkdale. He said he'll see how he's playing next year before deciding. He had played in 36 straight British Opens. So he would, of course, return that year in the next 3 years and also come back in 2005.
Maybe he's got one more in him. Who knows?
He also said, I did not think I would be coming this year, but in the last couple of months, I've been hitting the ball well. I think if I can be competitive, I shall be back at Royal Birkdale next year. So.
And the only thing is I got this guru who just does all these kind of weird things. It only cost me $20.
He then tipped the locker room attendant £1 and left back on his plane. That is it. Brief from 97 Open Championship, but not the most exciting one. For FanDuel, you must be 21 and older, 18 and older in D.C. and present in select states. FanDuel is offering online sports wagering in Kansas under an agreement with Kansas Star Casino, LLC. Gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit FanDuel.com/RG in Colorado, D.C., Iowa, Michigan, New Jersey, North Carolina, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Illinois, Kentucky, Tennessee, Virginia, and Vermont. Call 1-800-NEXT-STEP or text NEXT-STEP to 53342 in Arizona, 1-888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org/chat in Connecticut. 1-800-9-WITH-IT in Indiana, 1-800-522-4700. Visit ksgamblinghelp.com in Kansas, 1-877-770-STOP in Louisiana. Visit mdgamblinghelp.org in Maryland. Visit 1-800-GAMBLER.net in West Virginia or call 1-800-522-4700 in Wyoming. Hope is here. Visit gamblinghelplinema.org or call 800-327-5050 for 24/7 support in Massachusetts or call 1-877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY in New York.